Everything's all screwed up, so give me just a moment. Had an incident earlier today where Microsoft low-key hijacked my computer, so this is all you're gonna see right now. Give me just a moment, okay? At some point my face is gonna be on this screen. Couldn't tell you when. Okay, and then change. Is it gonna show me? It's not gonna show me, so I'm gonna remove the face cam, and then we're going to put the face cam back, maybe? Video capture device. Face cam. Okay. No face cam. Cool, cool, cool. I don't know what's causing this. Maybe I put myself down here? No, it's just gonna be... Okay, no, this is fun. This is great. I'm having a rough morning, apparently. Give me just a moment. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I promise. It was fine a second ago. I swear it was. But now it's not all of a sudden. Yeah, they hijacked all my stuff because uh yeah, low-key hijack because Microsoft was like, "Hey, do you want to sync with your laptop?" And I was like, "Not really." And it was like, "Cool, you're synced with your laptop." My laptop has all of 3 programs on it. So, give me a hot second here so I can figure out what's going on. In the meantime, why don't you look at this? See? I'm visible. You know what? I get I'm visible like this. You know what? You know what? This is just gonna have to do. This is just gonna have to do. Hi. Yes, it is trying to embarrass me in front of my cool friends. And now I don't. Okay, and my mic is still on. Okay, good. Because I get worried. Oh my gosh. Okay, well. Because see, when I go to my face cam, nothing shows up. But when I go to the reading cam, everything's fine. So. I'll just. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not stressed out. I'm not stressed out. I'm doing a video without a hat. I just realized that. Hello, everybody, and I'm sorry for the state of everything right now. Give me just a moment. There. Now I feel less naked. Oh, okay. So that was a sparkling introduction. So, I'm sorry everyone for the confusion. Hello everyone. Okay, thank you everybody for coming, and thank you for your patience. Because, okay, so here's what happened. I woke up kind of late this morning and I decided to kind of take it easy. You know, I was gonna do some writing this morning. I was gonna wake up super early, and then I woke up with like a really, really bad headache. So I was like, no, you know what? Let me take it easy. Let me just calm down. Let me just, right? And so I took it sort of easy this morning, and when I got up, I went ahead and made the filling for the cake my boyfriend and I are going to make tonight because we usually bake during our stay-at-home date nights, and there are going to be a lot of stay-at-home date nights because gas is expensive right now. But also, it's supposed to snow. It's March in Georgia, and it's supposed to snow tonight because that makes sense. Anyways, aw, thank you, Alexa. That's very sweet of you. I like having the hat on because I'm a little self-conscious about um if you've noticed that there are some like bald spots throughout my head. I'm a little self-conscious about them. I'm going to a hair specialist though soon, so There's that. But so I went ahead and made the filling for the cake my boyfriend and I are going to make tonight. And then when I finally sat down to eat breakfast and go to my computer, I realized that all my settings were out of whack. So I have everything on dark settings. I have the nightlight on my big computer and everything. So I found out when I turned my computer on that when I signed on to Microsoft last night, um, to get them to stop charging me $6 a month, it synced my laptop with my big computer. So all of my laptop settings, which is all light settings, was on my computer and I couldn't was on my big computer and I like couldn't see anything. So I had to go around and desync. I had to one desync and then I had to restart the computer and then I had to redo all of my settings. I don't know where my wallpaper went, so it's just gonna have to be like that for a while. Trust me, MW, you are not late. I'm just ranting about the last 15 minutes. So let's see. I'm going to start the music. And for those of you who don't know, this is mynoise.net. Mynoise.net helps me with a whole bunch of stuff. This is not sponsored, by the way. But mynoise.net helps me with a bunch of stuff. With all of their... Hang on, let me make sure of the music. Let me make sure you guys can hear it this time. And then... Let me turn the gain up on my... There we go. There we go. Now I'm nice and loud. Perfect. I'm only able to be here because work got canceled because of snow. I know you don't trust people who like winter, but when your city is nicknamed the Bride of the Sun and it's summer, you kind of want any cold you can grasp. No, I get that. I mean, I live in the American South, so what we get very humid summers. So everything gets a little bit sticky. So let me know if y'all can actually hear the music. Not sponsored. Just use Dr. Cannon ooh woo while purchasing. Although I will suggest that that if you go to mynoise.net, donate to them because it triples the choices you have to choose. It triples the choices you have to choose from it triples the choices you have to choose from all the sounds they have. And I donate like $5, $6 like every month. So I prefer snowy winter. Okay. So as long as you guys can, okay. Just as long as you guys can hear the music this time, because I listened back to the video and I was like, wow, you can't hear any of the music. And this is the music I usually listen to when I'm editing and writing. This is the Japanese ose, I believe. Yeah, this Japanese ose. And I usually listen to this when I'm writing romance scenes. Because I like writing me some spicy scenes now. I'm one of those people that I actually don't have a problem writing sex scenes and spicy scenes. The problem, fight scenes and spicy scenes is what I meant to say. Actually don't have a problem writing fight scenes and spicy scenes. What I have a problem with is traveling. Like, if someone has to get to a place, and they just have to, like, go there, it's so frustrating to me. I would rather just skip it. Okay, but I've made myself some tea. Did you see the news that Dumb Husky is going to be printed in English? Hopefully that doesn't mean that it's going to be copyrighted. And that I can't read it on stream. Okay. right. So today, instead of drinking milk tea, opened up a portal. Instead of milk tea, um, we're just doing regular tea today. And I like my tea thick like sludge because it just clear up everything here. And one thing, if you want to like start doing things with like narration and whatnot, like I do, like getting into voice acting, eating green apples will really, or any kind of apple, honestly, but really mostly the more acidic the apple, the more noises, sorry, the more mouth noises you won't hear. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't think that makes sense. I feel like I'm so much more well-spoken in YouTube videos than I am on stream. Okay, so we're gonna get ready to move on to Chapter 7. If I'm feeling bold, we're gonna move on beyond Chapter 12. But remember, it is Wednesday, it is Friday, so it is date night. So if it goes past 3:30, I will automatically, I will usually end stream. So, I don't think I will be able to read for 3 hours straight, but we'll see. Okay. So, before I get started, is there anything anybody would like me to know going in? Just a heads up. Because sometimes launching straight into it feels a little awkward. So if there's anything you would like me to know before I get to reading, please let me know. Green apples are great. Honeycrisp is a nice second, though. I love green apples. But Honeycrisp is a good second. What is your time zone so I can coordinate? I am American Eastern Standard Time. Alright. Now that I feel sufficiently sweated, let's get started. Chapter 7. Setting Off. When Zhou Zishu made Zheng Chengling pass out, he did it for fear that the boy would harbor too many bad thoughts. Calming him down was a necessity. There was barely any force to it, so the boy woke up not long after the strange Wen Kexing arrived. He opened his eyes, dazedly staring at the ceiling, as if his soul had left the body. Until yesterday, he was still the Zhang's young master, pampered by many, even when his tutor told him that he was utterly stupid and useless, even when his martial arts teacher was secretly disappointed that he was just bad mud, unable to plaster walls. Jeez. His life was happy and content. He got people dressing and feeding him. Everywhere he went, servants would follow, serving him diligently, even with his mediocre studying until late night. They would flatter him all day long, and even when Zhang Chengling knew his worth, it didn't stop him from basking in the false praises sometimes. His life went by with such privilege for 14 years. Then, he lost everything in a single night. His home was gone. His parents killed along with all relatives and friends. His world's turning upside down. He was terrified, but he didn't know what to do. Zhou Zishu was the type who knew how to fart better than to console people. So he stayed at his place silently. There was only a blank stare on Zhang Chunling's face. There was only a blank stare on Zhang Chunling's face, tears streaming from his eyes. When he heard Wen Kexing asking Gu Xiang, "Who's this little thing?" He said to be Zhang Yusen's son. Wen Kexing nodded with a dull face, like Zhang Yusen's name was no more than a fleck of dust. He spoke again a while after. "I heard the Zhang family was so poor that they had nothing but money. How did a son of Zhang Yusen end up like this? Did he run off without bringing enough silvers, or was he lost?" Gu Xiang lowered his voice. "From what he told us, someone murdered all the Zhangs. The news must have shaken up the whole city by now, but I guess you didn't hear about it while you were fooling around somewhere." Wen Kexing thought for a bit, nodding. "No wonder there are so many corpses." He turned to assess Zhou Zishu. "Then what's he doing here?" He asked Gu Xiang. Oh, I pronounced that very wrong. He asked Gu Xiang. The girl scoffed. That beggar called himself Zhou Shu. He sold himself to a dead man for 2 silvers, so now he had to escort the boy to Taihu. Popping in to say hi. I'll be back to listen properly in half an hour when I'm home. Drive safe. I hope you get home safe. Can someone please help me pronounce Taihu? I know it's not pronounced Taihu. Can someone please help me? I know it's not pronounced that way. Or at least I feel in my heart of hearts that it's not. Wen Kexing's eyes widened, internally evaluating something with a completely serious face. He told Gu Xiang afterwards, "Now I'm even more certain that he's a beauty. Only beautiful people can be that dumb." Gu Xiang resorted to ignorance, too used to her master's antics. Zhou Zishu followed in suit since he had yet to fully gauge the man's ability. He turned to look at a teary Zhang Chunling, feeling somewhat annoyed and wishing that the younger would stop already. He poked him with the tip of his toes, coughing. "Young Master Zhang, get yourself together if you've done resting." Young Master Zhang, please get yourself together if you're done resting. We shouldn't stay at this place for too long. There must be more people after you. There must be more people after you to finish their job. Okay, hang on. We shouldn't stay at this place for too long. There must be more people after you to finish the job. His Uncle Zhou is entrusted, so he will at least... This Uncle Zhou is entrusted, so the least he will do is take you to Taihu, safe and sound. Taihu, you were correct. Really? I feel like it's wrong. Maybe I'm just doubting myself. Sorry, you didn't need to see all that. I have something stuck in my teeth. Zhang Chunling's eyes shifted to look around. The moment they stopped, he covered his face with his hands and curled up into a ball, wailing. Zhou Zishu felt a headache coming with the boy's cries. He told himself that a scolding was necessary, but didn't have the heart to do it. Comforting children was not his forte either, so silence was the best option. Suddenly he sat up, walking toward the door. He was intending to check out the state of the Buddha statue and maybe restore it to its original place, reasoning that his previous action seemed quite offensive and wouldn't help if he wanted to gather more merits. Zhou Zishu didn't expect Zhang Chunling, who at that moment assumed the elder wanted to abandon him, to scramble forward, rushing to grip his ankle, shouting, Uncle Zhou, please don't leave me, I... He looked extremely pitiful, sobbing like that. Even though they ran into each other by pure chance, the younger had no one else to rely on but Zozi Shu. The latter was his savior, a living Buddha. Zozi Shu looked down at him impassively, voice insipid. I'm not sure if that's the correct word to use for that. Missed a notification. Yep, Inquisitive Mind, you are quite on time. I literally just started. Has your father never told you that a true man has gold under his knees? After a moment of being starstruck, thanks to those words, Zhang Chengling finally reached some kind of comprehension. He used the sleeves to wipe away the tears and snots with all his might. Paying respect to the sky, the earth, the king, family, and teacher is a matter of course. And you saved me, Uncle Zhou. Will you let me be your disciple? Wen Kexing and Gu Xiang observed the scene in amusement, the latter whispering, "Last night he was still a foolish child. He got smart real fast, huh?" Zozi Shu could only reply, "Stand up first." Zhang Chengling stubbornly refused. "I won't stand until you accept it. I can't avenge my family. Am I even worth existing, Shifu?" Zozi Shu cared none about his arguments, dragging the younger up by the shoulder. "I'm an invalid who's going to die soon. It's enough of a blessing for me to be able to get by another day. You think I can teach you anything? I heard that Sir Zhao Jing of Taihu is your father's old friend. Go see him, and there will be other better people to help you with your vengeance." He concentrated his internal force into the palms, picking up the statue and putting it back on the altar, muttering, "Sinful, sinful." I know. Chengling. Suffering. Pronounced Jang. Sorry. I'm trying. Because you know what the problem is? One of the reasons it's so weird for me to call him by his full name is because every other person is called by their full name in the Netflix show with the subtitles. Every character is called by their full name. Xiao Jing, Wen Kexing, Zozi Shu, Gu Xiang, everybody. But not Chengling. Chengling is the only one who is consistently called only by his given name. Okay, where was I? He saluted not quite seriously before turning to speak to a still dumbfounded Zhang Chengling. "We should leave now that you're fully awake. If you want to avenge your family, you need to get to Sir Zhao as soon as possible. But now, we should get some food first." He stretched without a care, smiling at Gu Xiang and ignoring Wen Kexing. He then left the shrine in a blink of an eye, not bothering to check if Zhang Chengling could catch up. The boy stood in dejection, but hurriedly followed The boy stood in dejection, but hurriedly followed after realizing the man had already gone. Wen Kexing rubbed his chin, watching the two silhouettes with obvious interest. "Let's follow them. We're going to Taihu." He stood up and told Gu Xiang. The mischievous look on her face vanished. She replied with a low voice after some thoughts. "Master, Zhang Chengling from the Zhang family massacre was done by the ghost of Qingzu. Zhui Feng, the hanged ghost, was here." Wen Kexing glanced at her with no expressions. So? Gu Xiang startled a little, chasing after the already leaving Wen Kexing. She asked him with a serious voice. The hanged ghost was clearly fake since I beat him yesterday. Master, did you know something already? Ah Xiang? Wen Kexing stared at her again, his eyes seemingly black holes that could suck people in. Guxiang quieted down immediately, mumbling, "I know, I talk too much." At that moment, her face looked pale, as if this ever-fearless girl was dreading something. Wen Kexing's fixed gaze only turned away in approval after the reply as he continued forward. Guxiang followed him, keeping a small distance. She heard Wen Kexing. We're gonna follow that Zhou person. My instincts are never wrong, and he can't be anything else but beautiful. We'll catch him red-handed eventually. Xiang, let's make a bet, since you don't believe me." Because of this, Zhou Jishu definitely didn't have a peaceful journey. Escorting Jiang Chengling was no different than carrying the biggest fart. How many times has this chapter said fart so far? Carrying the biggest fart where there were endless flies along the way. He just knocked out another one nut. Whoa, okay. I read that entirely incorrectly. Escorting Jiang Chengling was no different than carrying the biggest fart, as there were endless flies along the way. He just knocked out another one tonight, regretting his decisions while looking at the 2 silvers. He still had half of his strength, and his skills didn't go anywhere, so those people should know better than to touch him. But the nails made things unpredictable, resulting in his annoyance at the endless torture from both the pain and the flock of scums attacking at every minute. Not to mention the pair of master and maid who kept trailing behind them for no reasons. Yeah, that is kind of ironic, Spider Deck. Yeah, I will say, judging by what I've seen in just reading this so far and having watched the drama, they definitely made Zhou Jishu quite a bit more serious than he is in the book. Where was I? Excuse me. I'm getting heartburn from a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Oh my god. He threw them off the track with ease. Had he not been accompanied by a small... He could throw them off the track with ease, had he not been accompanied with a small burden. In addition, the mysterious Wen Kexing had some talent to him. There were many times Zhou Jishu managed to leave him behind, only to end up seeing the terribly punch-inviting face a half a day later. Punch-inviting face, that's great. Zhou Jishu quietly dragged another assassin's body outside before returning to their room to meditate. Jiang Chengling noticed nothing, still deeply asleep with his nonsensical dreams. During the past days they were traveling together, he found out that this boy didn't display any stuck-up behaviors. The wailing child of before seemed to have disappeared completely, like he was forced into maturity. He didn't complain, even when they were going at a very slow pace, obeying Zhou Jishu's every word, being generally very honest and sincere. His only shortcoming was the inability to stop calling the elder Shifu, no matter how much he had been corrected. Zhou Jishu eventually gave up, believing that after dropping the boy off in Taihu for the Zhaos, he would leave immediately to travel anywhere he wanted. He had it all planned out already. After seeing the famous mountains and lakes, he would go south rather than north, as there was a friend in Nanjing who... to whom he hadn't paid a visit. He had to at least see them and have a drink together, before descending into the underworld. Suddenly, the young man on the bed tossed and turned violently, drenched in sweat. He was like that almost every night. During the day, he was calm on the outside, with thoughts of vengeance and regaining mental stability. but memories of that fated night had become nightmares, not letting him go. Zhou sighed, shaking him awake. Zhang Chengling let out a cry and sat up, eyes blank. He only reacted after a good time had passed, murmuring at Zhou Zishu, "Uncle Zhou, I didn't mean to do that." He was so young and inexperienced that even his bloodshot... I was so close. He was so young and inexperienced that even his bloodshot eyes retained an innocence that was way too familiar. Zhou Zishu was instantly reminded of someone he knew in the past. The one whose only wish was to wander everywhere in Jianghu with him. He couldn't help but sit there in a daze. Zhang Chengling spoke cautiously. "Uncle Zhou, I didn't mean to wake you up. I just dreamt of my father." His lips quivered, pale. I can stop sleeping if it's a problem." "Oh, sweetie. Oh, no." "Alright, Alexa, get you something to eat." Zhou Zishu patted his shoulder, his voice unintentionally tender. "It's alright. Sleep all you want. I'll wake you if there's a nightmare." Zhang Chengling made a noise in reply, crawling back under his blanket, fingers still unconsciously holding on to Zhou Zishu's sleeve. The man stared down at it meaningfully. There was an awkwardness in Zhang Chengling's smile when he retracted his hand. At that moment, from a place seemingly not far away, there was someone making a twang sound with the strings of their... I was so close. Oh my god, I was so close. At that moment, from a place seemingly not far away, there was someone with a twang... There was someone making a twang sound with the strings of their zither. Zhang Chengling felt that sound, as if feeling a lightning snapped right into his ears. Even his organs seemed to tremble. Pain started afterwards, and he cried out loud, clutching at his chest desperately. Lord, Chengling he's going through it. He is, like, constantly going through it, this poor thing. Like, especially when he was like, I can stop sleeping if it's a problem. Oh, you poor baby. Oh, honey. Drink all this tea. Because I didn't bring my water cup in with me. Because I'm a genius like that. Alright, let's see. I'm just rereading. I'm just skimming through this. Welcome back, Alexa. I'm not sure if I already said that. I probably did. My mind has been a little recently, so... Yeah, I tend to forget things. Like, little bitty details. I can thank my migraines for that. I still can't believe it's supposed to snow today. You know, it was 68 degrees last night. Like, I shit you not. I went outside, it felt great. All I had to wear was a sweater. Zetha? Or Zetha? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Zetha? I know I keep wiping the corners of my mouth. I feel like I still have peanut butter on my mouth somewhere. And because my waiting camera isn't showing, like, I feel like I still have it on my mouth because I can't see my face that well. Like, let's check. Does TK still have peanut butter on her mouth? No. All right. Can continue. Oh, I'm on top chat. That's why I can't see everyone's messages. Jeez. I freaking hate top chat. Anyways, yeah, chapter 8. Chapter 8. Moonshade. The sound made by the Zetha was incredibly thin, like a binding spiderweb coming from every direction. It causes on my mouth too, like when you see an insect and they think they're crawling on you. Yes. Yes. All the time. Like a binding spiderweb coming from every direction, carrying deadly, treacherous intentions. Guxiang also felt the insides of her body churning at that sound, but she was quick to assess the situation, immediately forcing herself to calm down. Wen Kexing, who was just sleeping on the bed moments before they had already awoken, standing by the window silently, moonlight veiled over his face, softening his features. His eyes didn't blink, staring pointedly at somewhere in the dark. His shadow stretched long, thin behind him. Why did I add the word thin? I don't have peanut butter, but I have cheese on that. I usually eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and apples on days that I record. Because peanut butter is hydrophobic. And green apples and apples in general help basically clean out, like, keep you from getting, like, all mucusy. So also, it's quick and easy, and I don't have to cook any rice. Because usually, that's my usual go-to breakfast, is rice and eggs. And soy sauce. Rice, eggs, and soy sauce. And sometimes sausage. Sometimes rice, eggs, soy sauce, and sausage. But I'm trying to keep away from pork these days, because diet and stuff. Because I'm over 30, I gotta think about that stuff more often. His shadow stretched long behind him. He remained unmoved, expressions flitting between blankness and mirth, creating the image of a detached but mystifying stone statue. Under the cover of night, his dangerous aura was set free without restraint. He looked like a ghost, empty of human emotions. Guxiang was smart enough to cover her ears the moment she sensed something abnormal, trying her best to block the sound coming from outside. She sat up straight, finally getting rid of the nausea after minutes of meditation. Wen Kexing's slender fingers brushed over the window bars, letting out a low laugh. They've even recruited enchanted song, Chin Song. This would definitely cost a fortune. Makes one question who they want to deal with. In a flash, he heard something dashing through the air. The sound was thick, barely recognizable, like it came from the strings of an old, unused instrument. There was also another person, flinging tiny rocks into the endless night sky. There was almost no sound to the flying objects, but those elusive rocks managed to cut off the never-ending Zetha's song, and in such a subtle way. Not unlike how one threw a stone into the water, instantly creating ripples that spread to places no one could see or catch. As expected, the song halted. I like it either, but likes it for some reason, so it's always in the house. I love peanut butter in only two applications: on Ritz crackers and on sandwiches. That's it. I don't like peanut butter in any other sort of application, except for maybe Thai pate. But even so, they don't always. I know I know Thai satay uses like different stuff for peanut sauce. Now I lost my place. In a flat. No, 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 no. I read that already. Wen Kexing leaned on the window to listen attentively, his eyes closed. The corner of his lips lifted into a smile. The zither resounded all of a sudden, the strength carried in the song rivaling floods and giant beasts. Its user seemed to have resorted to the killing move. Practically at the same time, an ear-piercing noise was unleashed from the room next door. It seemed to come from a flute, but normally flutes would never make sounds that sharp, so sharp to the point it felt like they could tear something apart. A battle broke out between the intense flute and the demonic zither, with an implausible reflex from both sides. The zither strings split in the blink of an eye. The world was plunged into silence afterwards. Wen Kexing still stood where he was, shaking his head and mumbling, "Our predecessors have never been wrong. It's inevitable for a swordsman to die by a sword." Gu Xiang let out an exhale after everything passed, wiping the cold sweat from her forehead. "Say, Master, is that Qin something dead?" Wen Kexing's voice was gentle. "Even if he's still alive, all of his meridians have been broken, and he's useless now. Death would be a happier fate for him." Everyone's talking about peanut butter. My roommate loves peanut butter. Loves Reese's Pieces, specifically. He suddenly pushed open the window, speaking to Gu Xiang with an even lower voice than before, as if not wanting to disturb something. "Listen, Ah Xiang. Life will always be fascinating. If you want something, be prepared to pay for its price. Using a zither to kill people is surely fun, but you have to watch out for the ones that can bite back." Gu Xiang tilted her head. "When will they bite back?" Wen Kexing was patient. "When they're stronger than you." The girl nodded, asking again after mulling the thought over. "Why do you have to compete with someone stronger when you can just pick on the weaker ones instead?" He turned his head to look at her. Being backlit by the moon, the man's whole body seemed to bathe in silver light, his expressions getting harder and harder to read. After a good while, he replied, "Or you can pick no one, or you can pick on no one, and be a good person like me." When good person Kexing then left through the window, leaving a speechless Gu Xiang behind staring after him. Zhou situation was not exactly ideal either. He made his flute during the journey out of boredom with very poor craftsmanship. The notes were not right, the tuning all over the place, so he never got around to using it. He didn't expect it to be useful tonight. A big crack appeared after a single use, so it was fortunate for him to have been able to manipulate the opponent into giving it their all. Because only then did he succeed in delivering the killing blow. The results would have been very different otherwise. Zhang Chengling looked like he had just been fished out of the water, since the boy wasn't competent enough. Even though Zhou Zishu had helped cover his ears, the Zyther sound still left him with internal injuries. His face was as blanched as paper. His face was as blanched as paper after throwing up. Zhou Zishu was worried that he was too young and weak to meditate on his own, so he put his palms on the younger's back, lowering his voice. Concentrate. Then he used his inner force to assist the boy, only retracted after his complexion looked a little better. His own body was drenched in sweat. It was a blessing that they were very close to Taihu now, he mused, or else he would feel incredibly humiliated for almost not carrying out the mission that he had promised to do. Having never done any good deeds for a large portion of his life, he couldn't fail at the very first one. That would probably cause bad luck. In Jianghu, there was a... Jeez. Thank you for the Wen Kexing voice. I'm better at deep voices. In Jianghu, there was next... Wow, okay, that's that. Let me read that sentence. There was next... Okay, I'm gonna try that again. In Jianghu, there was next to no one who possessed as much information as him, Tian Chuang's former leader. He knew exactly who the person he fought was the moment they went head to head. Legends had it that enchanted Song Qin Song was a eunuch who loved to dress as a woman. The colorful clothes he wore forewarned people of his poisonous nature. Thanks to the fact that he could murder people without a trace, he was very highly valued. I don't know where I got highly from, I made it up. His principle was that the more he was paid, the more loyal he would be to that person. Since silence had fallen, Zhou Zishu surmised that he was either dead or very close to it. Had he been as powerful as before, he would have finished the other off. But now only half his life was left, so there was no certainty of success. Besides, that might be too cruel. He then heard the sound of clapping and someone praising. How emotionally provoking this nighttime melody has been. How would anyone not miss their hometown after listening to it? Brother Zhou has blended the sound of the flute and zither beautifully under the moon and stars tonight. This talent, this elegance must belong to a beauty only. He had never seen anyone talking this much rubbish. Zhou Zishu thought about how he didn't notice the other standing outside the window at all. Someone this unpredictable would be hard to deal with even when he was at his best. He could only think of 3 people. He could only think of 3 people and a half who possessed such power. It would be foolish to ever offend any of them. He inhaled, opening the window, pointing at his sickly face with the deathly pale skin and dull eyes. This beauty? He asked. Wen Kexing choked, glancing at the visage. What? Give me a moment. Sorry, I know I click my tongue quite loud when I'm doing stuff. I know it can be a bit distracting. I usually have to cut them out of like every... I usually have to cut like all my clicks out of every like audio bit I do. Wen Kexing choked, glancing at the visage, which was not too unpleasant, but not something people would want to look at twice either. He turned to watch the moon after that. Zhou Zishu lifted his legs to sit on the windowsill, following the other's gaze. The full moon was especially bright tonight. The moonlight was cold like water, and the ground looked as if it was covered in mist. Zosie Shu wondered who Wen Kexing was among those dangerous 3.5 people. On the other hand, he was also unsure about the man's motives for following him. The confusion only grew the more he thought about it. He felt a particular aura from this man that suggested that there might be birds of a feather. The other would not He felt a particular aura from this man that suggested they might be birds of a feather. The other would definitely not do something if it didn't benefit him. He was following the other man. He was following another man, or he was actually following Zhang Chengling to Taihu. There must be some kind of plan behind this. After lots of thoughts without any solid conclusions, he scoffed at himself. Old habits die hard. He looked down to Wen Kexing, studying him enthusiastically, smiling. If Brother Wen is really curious, how about making me shed my skin to see the flesh inside? Wen Kexing raised his eyebrows. Fine by me. His hands were at Zosie Shu's face barely after the word fine was uttered, but the latter was prepared, leaning backwards, one leg raised to kick at Wen Kexing's wrist. In just seconds, there were so many moves traded back and forth, they would make any onlookers dizzy. Chengling is too busy puking to see any of this, I guess. I'm trying, Alexa. I'm trying. Ow. Bit my tongue. That's true, Anonymous. I tell you what, YouTube takes entirely too long to ban trolls. I remember, once upon a time, in my Overwatch streaming days, that, yeah, I remember back in my Overwatch streaming days that they actually just straight up wouldn't let you ban people. You had to blacklist their, usernames. In just seconds, there were so many moves traded back and forth, they would make any onlookers dizzy. Zosie Shu felt like he was at a disadvantage since his position at on the windowsill limited lots of movements. He ducked down to dodge another move, jumping down. However, the night was not a good time for him. In addition to the previous torment, a nail caused intense pain at that moment, making him slow down. Wen Kexing's palm was close to his torso out of nowhere, but the man suddenly stopped before he was hit with his strength. Zosie Shu looked down to glimpse at the palm that was almost touching his chest, his expression calm as ever. He smiled. Thank you, Brother Wen, for having mercy on me. He was interrupted by that very palm reaching up to touch his face. Wen Kexing didn't stop there, as he slowly caressed it with his fingers, seemingly wanting to determine if it was really human skin. Zosie Shu didn't get to step back before Guxiang, having heard the noises, looked down from the window and pulled her head inside, almost immediately exclaiming, "Oh my! How rude of me! Correct. Exactly what he was also thinking. Wen Kexing stood very close to him with a serious face. The seriousness turned ambiguous after the moonlight. Oh my gosh. I'm just making up words at this point. Wen Kexing stood very close to him with a serious face. The seriousness turned ambiguous under the moonlight, giving one the impression that he was actually being rude. Gu Xiang didn't bother to be quiet. Oh man, I'm going blind! I'm going blind! Zhou Jishu quickly coughed, stepped a long step away, calming himself down. He found this situation both hilarious and embarrassing. Yeah, it's in if they're fighting in the moonlight, they are absolutely in love. Oh, and don't forget, if they are fighting in the moonlight to the beginning theme from the show, they are fighting in the moonlight to the beginning theme of the show, and in slow motion, they are definitely in love. All right. To be fair, she didn't have to be nosy. Zhou Zishu quickly coughed, stepped a long step away, calming himself down. He found the situation both hilarious and embarrassing. Did Brother Wen see what my face is made of yet? Human skin. Wen Kexing replied after moments of pensiveness. Zhou Zishu seemed to agree without thinking. Wen Kexing stared at his hands. Strange. How strange. It seems like it's become one with your body. Zhou Zishu replied unperturbedly. It's a shame to admit this, but I'm actually born with it. Were there another person observing, excluding Gu Xiang, of course, they would definitely came to the conclusion that one of these two men was a lunatic. Wen Kexing felt a bit out of his depth. Looking at Zhou Zishu... Oh, hang on. I think I read that incorrectly. Wen Kexing felt a bit out of his depth, looking at Zhou Zishu one last time before leaving, not to his room, but somewhere outside. Gu Xiang stuck her head out again, rolling her eyes while beaming. Huh, Master must be unable to accept reality at the moment, but he's gonna visit his pretty friend at Golon Bordello. It's good that he's gone. Everyone can prepare for sleep now. There was a considerable distance between them and Wen Kexing, but without looking back, his voice was still delivered to Gu Xiang directly and clearly through the air. He said, What did you just say, Ah Xiang? Gu Xiang gave in. Just breaking wind! There's a lot of talk of farting in this book. Then she quickly went back inside, as if wanting to keep the reply to herself. Only then did Zhou Zishu exhale? Please tell me where there is a K in the word exhale. Please tell me this. Only then did Zhou Zishu exhale. Releasing the tension from his body, gritting his teeth, he leaned onto the wall without making any sounds. It was fortunate that his pain came in phases and bursts. He waited until feeling a little better to pull himself together before getting back inside. Tonight seemed to be longer than usual. Tonight, seemed to be longer than usual. They're both lunatics, just not in the way it would seem here. Yeah. No, I know he's hot. I know it. It's true, though. 3 days later, Zhou Shu and a Zheng Chengling, who would become surprisingly thinner after just a few days, reached Taihu. He knocked on the door, but he got to explain. Oh, Jesus Christ! He knocked on the door, but before he got a chance to explain anything, the butler stared at Zheng Chengling, crying out, Are you Chengling? Are you really Chengling? Then, he turned his head to yell at the servants, Go inform Sir... Jesus Christ. Go inform Sir quickly. Young Master Chengling is here. Young Master Chengling is still alive. A short time passed until Sir Zhao Qing of Taihu was at the manor to greet them himself. Zhang Chengli fell to his knees. Zhang Chengling fell to his knees. It seemed like the news had spread everywhere. They stood there, crying together before making a fanfare out of escorting them inside. Finally, his ancestors would no longer be haunted, Zhou Jishu mused. Being a good person was really exhausting. I'm gonna read that again. Just that last passage again. He knocked on the door, but before he got to explain anything, the butler stared at Zheng Chengling, crying out, Are you Chengling? Are you really Chengling? He turned his head to yell at the servants, Go inform Sir, quickly! Young Master Chengling is here! Young Master Chengling is still alive! A short time passed until Sir Zhao Jing of Taihu was at the door to greet them himself. Zhang Chengling fell to his knees. It seemed like the news had spread everywhere. They stood there crying together before making a fanfare out of escorting them inside. Finally, his ancestors would no longer be haunted. Zhou Jishu mused. Being a good person was really exhausting. He is definitely dramatic. Jeez. I'm still breaking out around my jaw. I don't know why. I don't know why. All right. Sorry, just taking a brief break. So much work not to go to hell. Oh my god, yeah. Oh. I want to say Zhou Jishu would hate hate a Southern Baptist church then. Ugh. There we go. Just making sure that I'm able to breathe. Because sometimes... Hang on, I just got a text message. Okay. I got a text from the boyfriend. So what we're gonna do tonight is we are making croquembouche. I would just go to hell by that point. That's funny. My boyfriend and I are making croquembouche. And here, I don't know how to spell it, but let me see if I can find it. Ignore this. Croquembouche? I don't know how to spell it. There we go. This is what the boyfriend and I are making tonight. And so I wanted to go ahead and take care of all of the filling, which I made this morning. But yeah, we're gonna have a cream puff tower. It's gonna be great. And if you ask why, no reason. Because we can. The pastry tower, yes'm. Yes'm. Yeah, Croquembush. I was a pastry chef for like 2 years, and I still can't spell it, so. You know something that I really, really want to make that I've never gotten a chance to make? Let me show you. I have never gotten a chance to make this. I've had it several times. But I've never actually been able to make it. And this shit looks so good. This is so good. We call those profiteroles in Portugal. No, profiteroles are actually something a little different than the cream puffs we're making. We're just making cream puffs. Profiteroles, I believe, require a different kind of cream. But we're just using regular, like, pastry cream and whipped cream. But yeah, this is what I want to make. Opera cake is so good. I've had it several times. I've never actually been able to make it myself. And one of the reasons I've never made it myself is because almond flour is really expensive down here. Well, I mean, I guess technically up here. Because when I used to buy almond flour back in my hometown, like where my parents live, it was maybe like $6, $7 a bag. But up here, it's like $10 or $11. But I guess I was just used to living in a coastal town for years. Okay. Let me drink a little more water. And then we will read chapter 9. We just call both profiteroles. Really? I mean, valid. I got it. It's nearly dinner time here. We are actually having, we managed to get, like, the last bit of steak on sale. We're probably not going to be having steak for a while, because food prices are going to be a little bit expensive for a little while. Okay. I'm spending a lot of time talking and not reading. Ugh. Alright. Chapter 9. In the Woods. Zhao Jing of Taihu, also referred to as the Swordman of Chushan, was once a renowned figure. Before they got to Taihu, Zhou Zishu had been looking forward to this elusive hero whose name preceded his appearance. The anticipation grew when he caught wind of the news that Yu Tianjie, the only son of Hua Shen's patriarch, along with Mu Yung, lord of Dianzhan Mountain, manor of Sir One-Eyed Zhang Che, would also be at the same place. Wow, I'm surprised I was actually able to read that. I'm terrible with names. Zhou Jishu knew their status and background with the back of his hand to avoid offense. Qian Tuang had a separate archive of every single event and figure in Jianghu in the last 50 years. For example, Zhou Jishu knew that Zhao Jing, the heroic Chushan swordsman, was once exiled from his family and spent days in sufferings. For money, he had committed crimes not unlike what Enchanted Qin Song had done. He only started using his real name, Xiao Jing, at 27, marrying the only daughter of the Feng family that owned Taihu, using nepotism to build his wealth. So it had baked cake, pastinata, and a pizza. Did baked salmon. Oh my god, Alexa, that sounds delicious. That sounds delicious. He only started using his real name, Xiao Jing, at age 27, marrying the only daughter of the Feng family that owned Taihu, using nepotism to build his wealth. He also secretly killed off the ones who knew of his past, and was reaccepted into the Zhao family after the marriage. Another example would be the famous Sir Yu Tianjie, which it was said he once had a tryst with a maiden from the Yimei sect, but betrayed her afterwards, resulting in the girl committing suicide with their unborn child of 3 months old. Of course, she was honorable enough to never reveal the wretched lover's name. Zhou Zishu was deeply interested in them, since he knew all too well the kind of people they all were. Besides, he was weak to Zhang Chunling's pleadings, so he agreed to stay at the Zhao's for one more night. Despite his past, Zhao Jing did have a gallant aura to him. He didn't look down on the ragged Zhou Zishu, who couldn't even walk properly, but he was also experienced, and through Zhang Chunling's stories of the dangers he had to face on the journey, he became suspicious of this beggar-looking man's background. That day, after helping the two settle down, have a proper shower and food, Xiao Jing called Zhang Chunling to the study and to tell him what had happened in the past days. So Shishu had all the tea, and it was piping hot! Okay, I'm only gonna say this once, but Zhang Chunling low-key does remind me of a choir director. I know, that sounds weird, yes, but choir directors, especially choir directors in churches, know all the tea. All the time. And usually they keep it to themselves because they have a place of authority, you know? But if you ask, or if they drink just a little too much, a whole bunch of stuff starts coming out. I've been in and out of choirs for 31 years. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, they are very lucky that he is not a gossip. That sounds so good. Makes me wonder what I should make with, steak tonight. I would make anything with salmon, but salmon is so expensive up here. Like, I'm so not used to seafood being expensive. I used to live, like, on the beach. So I'm used to seafood being cheaper than chicken. But when I moved here, I was like, what? Shrimp is $12 a pound? That's almost like twice as much as I would usually expect it to be. Hello, Curtis. It's good to see you again. Does that make Chungling a choir boy? I don't know. Maybe. He's 14, so he would probably still be an alto. Oh, I almost thought something terrible. I'm not gonna make that joke. Not on YouTube. I will get banned. Let's see. Where was I? Okay. That day, after helping the two settle down, have a proper shower and food, Zhao Jing called Zhang Chunling to the study to tell him what had happened in the past days. Zhang Chunling, after all, was still a child. It was hard enough for him to find someone he could call family. So, he told the elder everything, even stuff he had yet to understand. Zhao Jing, Zhao Jing listened to him in terror, and after contemplation, he couldn't help but ask, "This Zhou gentleman, do you know who he really is?" This Zhou gentleman, do you know who he really is? There we go. Much better. Zhang Chengling told him what happened at the abandoned shrine without hesitation. Zhao Jing narrowed his eyes and stroked his beard. He comforted the younger briefly before sending him to bed. From 10 days of traveling together, Zhou Zishu had come to know this Zhang Chengling child. Despite lacking a lot due to being pampered from a young age, he was a good kid with a good heart, never complaining when facing hardship, to the point of being a little simple-minded. Since Zhao Jing wanted to talk to him, Zhou Zishu was sure that the sly old fox, having succeeded in tricking Zhang Chengling into revealing information about him without meaning to, was sure that the old sly fox must have... Okay, yeah, sorry, I read that incorrectly. Hey there, just joined, but I will be mostly in listening mode as I'm quote-unquote working. Yeah, no problem, Jennifer. Continue working. It's Friday. Listen, I get it. He laughed internally. It didn't really matter whether he was Zhou Shu or Zhou Jishu, as both names were shrouded in mystery anyway. Even someone with vast knowledge and ample resources would know no further about Tianchuang other than the general information about the organization itself, much less its leader. Even if one investigated to Lord Zhou, it's too expensive. But since I live relatively close to the beach, it's cheaper. But salmon's a big expensive here. €5 a kilo. Gracious! Oof! Yes, I'm working too. I get it, creative. Listen, it's Friday. I will help. Listen, I will help you in your Friday slacking. Absolutely. I will absolutely be an accomplice. Even if one investigated into Lord Zhou, they would only dig up. Can someone remind me of the pronunciation of Zhou Zishu's name, please? I feel like I'm losing the plot a little. Could you maybe put that into chat and help me out a little? It still applies, Curtis. Think of the money. I worked retail for 15 years. And depending on what position you're in, money's pretty good. Sometimes customers being mean to you, really, when you look at that paycheck, it's like, maybe it's worth it. Zhou Zishu. Zhou Zishu. Zhou Zishu. Okay, thank you. Because I felt like I was really losing the plot there. Thank you. Also, hello, Freya. I'm not sure if I said hello to you before. But hello. Alright, where was I? He laughed. Nope. Who was worth currying favor with, but not important enough to be looked at twice. Sure enough, from the early morning of the next day, Zhou Jishu had become the newest hot topic amongst residents in Taihu Holdings. It was impossible to leave the guest's room thanks to the never-ending stream of visitors. He had no choice but to greet them and see them off one by one. Ah, Sir Jiao, It's truly an honor to finally meet you. Seeing is truly believing. Your appearance brought such a prosperous aura. You're asking who taught this lowly one? Oh, we're just nobodies, not worth being mentioned at all. Ah, Sir Tian, truly an honor to finally meet you. Seeing is truly believing. Your appearance brought such a prosperous aura. Where I'm from, this one is just a lowly beggar. It's not worth mentioning. No, 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 I'm not from the beggar sect. How can I be deserving of joining them? I'm just a nobody. Really. Ah, Sir Soon, truly an honor to meet you. Seeing is truly believing. Your appearance brought such a prosperous aura. I'm just a nobody. It wouldn't be out of the ordinary at all that you've never heard of me. Ah, Sir Lee, truly an honor to meet you. Seeing is truly believing. Your appearance brought such a prosperous aura. No, no, I've never known the other Sir Lee that well. Well, what we had was a convenient assistance during hard time. Which sect? Oh, I'm from none. Just a nobody. Not worth mentioning. Not worth mentioning at all. God, it's like greeting relatives at a funeral. My God. As night drew near, Joji Shu had been smiling so much his entire face was stiffened. It took a lot of massaging for it to return to the natural state. He knew deeply in his soul that complete paralysis wouldn't be far away if he had to suffer one more day of this, so he immediately planned to leave. Considering the insistence and the inquiries about other people's business, these Jung-Hu heroes were no better than nosy gossipers at markets. It was as if they wished they could have just stick their head into others' houses and used their eagle eyes to scan over anything and everything, seeing under the skin to determine if this was a human or a ghost. If one had said they were from the 8 big sects and was a disciple of this blah 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 person, the other one would reply, "Oh, truly an honor to meet you. My Zishu and your other master knew each other way back." Oh God, it's really like it's really like an awkward family reunion. Oh my God. Oh my God, I used to change your diapers when you were little. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You met me once as a baby and my mother wouldn't let me in. My mother wouldn't let you hold me. Like, I know she a lie. Otherwise, they would be considered an outsider, and their character needed more time to be judged. It was nighttime. Under the waning moon, Joji Shu opened his eyes, and he had been sleeping early since now was the time for the nails to cause troubles. But the pain was nothing too serious. He just needed rest. He stood up, hesitating a little. It was admittedly rude to leave without saying goodbye. He left behind 2 letters, one for Zhang Chengling saying, "Mountains are still green, waters will still flow long and far." An incredible satisfaction washed over him after writing the note, as if he felt like he had finally embodied being in a Jianghu wanderer now. Jesus. Shane! Shane! Come back, Shane! That's exactly what that reminds me of. The other letter was for Zhao Jing, with one mere sentence, "Ever grateful for the welcoming stay." I literally stuck nails in my body to escape this nonsense, right? He placed them under a teapot before gracefully jumping onto the roof. On the roof was a small dragonly cat strolling. It felt a fleeting shadow and halted in alert, eyes wide, but didn't see anything else. Tilting its head in confusion, the cat ran towards the kitchen. Same. Joji Shu felt the Zhao's without a... Joji Shu. Okay, I'm gonna get this right, I swear to God. Joji Shu left the Zhao's without a word. Left the Zhao's without a sound. He was sure that no one had noticed. So never would he have imagined that there was someone seemingly having predicted his moves and already waiting for him in a small forest only a mile away from the holdings. Joji Shu felt annoyance creeping up the moment he glanced at that person. He saw Wen Kexing, saluting him smilingly. Ah, how coincidental, Brother Joe. It seems we are fated after all. Only soulmates would keep crossing paths under the moonlight like this. Joji Shu smiled back. Truly coincidental, isn't it, Brother Wen? Coincidental my ass, you pestilence, he thought. He tilted his head, asking after not seeing Gu Xiang. Young Miss Gu's not here? Wen Kexing gave another straightforward answer. That little girl is an inconvenience. She walks too slow. She'll only be in the way while I'm looking for... Wow. Words are hard today. Not the rain pouring down. Well, at least I have an excuse to wear a jacket. Yep. It's about to rain here. There is no sun at the moment. Except for the sun that's stuck behind the clouds right now. Let's see. My god, not this guy again. Yeah, I know. What? You know who Zoji Shu low-key reminds me of? Have any of you seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? Because he low-key reminds me of Jen, who has this sort of, like... You're not having a great day. No, I'm not. And, I mean... Yeah. It's okay, Curtis. Good luck on your interview, by the way. I didn't say that, but good luck. Job interviews are scary. And you're talking to someone who talks for a living. How long do you think Wen Kexing stood out there waiting for Zoji Shu? Well, it depends. It depends how long he was out there. Because I feel like Zoji Shu... I feel like he was able to predict Zoji Shu enough to only be waiting out there for like an hour. But it is kind of funny to imagine him getting there at like sundown and just waiting the whole time. But yeah, he reminds me, Zoji Shu reminds me of Jen because he has this idea of what like a martial arts wanderer should be, but not really like thinking about the fallout from his actions. Like, this is not a man that's big on empathy. He kind of wants to do his own shit without being obligated to other people, which I get. But at the same time, it's like, all right, calm down. This makes you want to watch episode 2 for the 5th time. Yeah, the book definitely phrases certain things that happen instead of only... They kind of... I don't know how to describe it. I feel like... Oh, this is a good way to describe it. The show puts everyone's business out there. The show puts everyone's business out there. The book kind of keeps everything sort of behind closed doors, where you know there are things that are happening, but you don't see them, if that makes sense. But I don't know. That could change. I'm only on chapter, what, 8? 9. I'm on chapter 9. That little girl's an inconvenience. Ah, yes. Wen Kexing gave a straightforward answer. That little girl is an inconvenience. She walks too slow. She'll only be in the way while I'm looking for this important, elusive figure. That is, you. The smile froze on Zoji Shu's face. He stared at Wen Kexing, then spoke after a good while. If this useless one is an important figure, then what would become of Monk Gu of Mount Chengming, the Poison King of Southern Xi's Guangying Palace, or the Ghost Lord of Qingzhou Ridge? Wen Kexing stared back meaningfully. Mo Gu cares none for the mortals. Monk Gu, Mo? Why did I leave off those 2 letters? Monk Gu cares none for the mortals. All he seeks is the path of cultivation. The Poison King is said to have blended into the vast world of Jung-Hu. It'd be hard to... It'd be a feat hard to find him. Wow. Mungu cares none for the mortals. All he seeks is the path of cultivation. The Poison King is said to have blended into the vast world of Jung-Hu. It'd be a hard feat to find him. And the Ghost Lord is no less ambiguous. Never have I got the chance to meet this one. As for whether he's human or not, that's a story for another day. To be honest, Word of Honor is kind of like a fanfic of Tian Yeke. Love both, but I see them as different AU interpretations. Indeed. I agree with you. They looked at each other after that, smiles carrying malicious intentions. Zhou Jishu is the first to turn his eyes away. Zhou Mo is merely a passerby. Why is that everyone has their eyes on me? Wen Kexing replied with a manner not unlike when one reunited with an old friend during spring hiking. Then why doesn't Brother Zhou stay with the Zhaos for a while longer? Taihu is popular for its pretty scenery. Why must you leave this soon without looking around for a bit? This is useless. This useless one has already experienced Taihu's incredible view. Staying will only create unnecessary inconveniences for Sir Jiao. Not to mention, we don't know each other that well. I did the favor for 2 silvers. It's not worth risking my life for them. Zhou Jishu paused before adding, escorting the young master, Zhang, is purely for gathering merits, so I wouldn't have to endure any tortures in the... Whoa, that's the wrong voice. Escorting the young Master Zhang is purely for gathering merits, so that I wouldn't have to endure any tortures in the underworld after death. That's all there is to it. Yeah, there's some words missing there. Gathering merits. Wen Kexing repeated in agreement, somewhat, head nodding. Correct. Brother Zhou truly shares the same mind with me, as only beautiful people can do that. It is clear. Zhou Zishu's temple throbbed at it is clear. He was about to interrupt when suddenly a piercing scream was heard deep inside the forest behind Wen Kexing. They both temporarily stopped. Wen Kexing nodded in the direction of the scream. See, my dear soulmate? Another chance for merit gathering has appeared. Same, Lola. I would more accurately compare to be honest, I would more, instead of Marvel Comics to the MCU, I would more compare Star Wars Extended Universe to the Star Wars shows. Like, it's kind of along the same line, but they switched interpretations of characters basically to suit the story without having to compromise any major story bits. Does that make sense? Basically, essentially, trying to make the characters into better people. Because there are some characters in the new Disney Star Wars that did some really fucked up things in the Star Wars Extended Universe. Kind of, Alexa. I think so. Because of, censorship. I'm back before the end of the stream this time. Yeah, I'm on chapter 9, so we have about 3 more chapters to go. Which is interesting because I'm running out of steam a bit early. It's probably because I didn't do any vocal warm-ups. I should probably sit up. That should make things better. Ugh. Because I am slouching. That might be the problem. Okay. Where was I? Ever since the cartoon, I hated Star Wars, even the movies. My father is a big fan of Star Wars, and my dad and I are very close. I'm kind of a satellite. I don't really necessarily understand it, but I used to read the Star Wars Extended Universe books because they were very easy to read for me as a kid. And I loved reading, so I just kind of got my hands on anything. Here we go. Joji Shu nodded. Joji Shu showed some hesitation, but eventually decided to go towards the direction of the sound, grudgingly replying to the other at the same problems. Eye problems are very serious, Brother Wen. You should look for a physician soon. When Kexing followed close behind, Joji Shu's Qinggong had reached the stage where he could travel without leaving any traces, but the other man was able to keep up with him without fail, always keeping a small distance. Normally, one would stay silent during traveling so as not to lose their vital energy, but Wen Kexing didn't seem to mind it. Brother Zhou is very correct. I do have to see some famous physicians whenever I have the chance to get treated properly. Up until now, I'm unable to find any mistakes in Brother Zhou's disguise. What awful eyesight I have, and I'm not even that old yet. How shameful. Shameful. Zhou Jishu wanted to get rid of those eyes that were supposedly getting worse every day. But on second thought, he didn't know enough about this man, and with the intellect and self-restraint of a former Tian Guang's leader, he would not do something foolish like that. With incredible speed, soon enough he reached a deeper part of the forest, where they saw a corpse. The person died a ghastly death. Dressed in black clothes, their mask fallen to both sides, revealing wide open eyes. Zhou Jishu felt a similar familiarity before he even got to see the body clearly, so he bent down to inspect further. He couldn't help but frown afterwards. Isn't this Sir Mu? Lord of Dianjuan Mountain? Lord of Duanjian Mountain Manor? If I watched 7 movies, I still say I grew up with the movies. I don't know much about the extended universe yet. Books are. I just had easy access to the books, and I read them all. I read them. That's really all I can tell you. I can tell you that I have remained a minimal amount of information from them. Just this morning, he was rambling to no ends for an hour. Just this morning, he was rambling to no ends for an hour. No one could have thought that he became a night owl like Zhou Jishu, then a dead owl, unfortunately. Wen Kexing approached as well, rubbing his chin with interest. Moonlit night, black clothes. It's possible that... Oh, Wen Kexing approached as well, rubbing his chin with interest. Moonlit night, black clothes. It's possible that Zhou Jishu turned to the other, ready to hear his deductions. Only for Wen Kexing to continue his brilliant chain of thought. That Lord Mu is out here picking flowers? Zhou Jishu turned away, face expressionless, internally praising himself for keeping his composure. There was no trace of blood on Mu Young's body or beside him, but his lips had gotten bluer. Zhou Jishu, after some thought, opened the front of his shirt. Only his chest was a black mark in the shape of a hand. Chinese breed of domestic cat. I was just looking at some of the... Oh. Also, the Beggar Clan. Most common sect. appearing in the wuxia setting, yeah. Usually I like the honorable beggar sect, but I can tell you, in word of honor, beggar sect sucks. You know, I never saw the entire show I think the C drama was Legend of Fae, but the book is Bandits. And I believe in Bandits there was a beggar sect. I'm not sure if they were included in the show Legend of Fae. I can tell you that the show did not do a good job of sorting all of the 10 million plot threads that are in that book, because there is a ton of characters, and each of those characters have their own plot lines, and each of those characters have relationships that they share between those plot lines. It can get very... Bandits reminds me of Bleach. I love Bleach, but it can be very confusing if you don't know all the names of the characters. I never finished Legend of Fae. I feel like some of the characters, same author as Tien Yake. Really? Now that, I truly had no idea. That explains a lot, actually. That explains a lot. Because I feel like Word of Honor has the same problem. Is a lot of characters, and if you don't know all their names, and if you only remember how they look, it can get very confusing. Wasn't Yang Yibo in Legend of Fae? Yes, he was. And Wang Yibo is lovely. He is a lovely man. Very beautiful. He is so ski. He's so thin. So sometimes when I see him in, like, costumes, it's like, bro, are you sure? I never finished Legend of Fae. It was boring to me. Yeah, same. I started but haven't gotten far yet. Yeah, I feel sometimes when I see Wang Yibo wearing certain things, he's very thin. No one thought there would be a good priest adaptation until Word of Honor happened. I've been following him since his debut in Unique. But sometimes when he, like, wears the period costumes, it's like, y'all could have fit that a little bit better. Like, he has a narrow waist and, like, very, very low shoulders. You need to help my dude out a little bit. Like, stop making him wear stuff that makes him look like his waist is around his knees. Are you watching any C-dramas? Right now I'm watching, Once Upon a Time on Linjiang Mountain. But I'm only at episode 8. Bot be gone. See how easy that was? Yeah, right now I'm watching Once Upon a Time on Lijiang Mountain. FYI, I am also most likely finishing the entire all the episodes of Word of Honor by Wednesday next week. Oh, excuse me, jeez. Because what happens is, I watch the show on Monday, edit it on Tuesday, and then post it that day. And then when I was doing Arcane, after I post it, I would do an Arcane episode, or 2 Arcane episodes, and then I would edit them on Thursday, and then post it on Friday. I'm falling behind on my Friday series because I haven't been feeling the best. It comes in waves. It comes in waves, usually around every 2 weeks. I start really hurting, and I have issues with like migraines and headaches, and but usually they don't get so bad, but this week it's been pretty bad. It's been pretty severe this week. If I can be honest, Spider Duck, I genuinely think that both of the lead actors are what made the show. I genuinely believe, for Word of Honor, if they had chosen anyone else, it probably would have failed. I believe that the main actors make the show. Like, you can tell that the actors in the show wanted it to be great. Like, even the man who is playing Gao Chong, you know that he understood the character just by looking at the way he interacted with other people, and the way he was clearly very dedicated to his role. And I think that because the actors wanted the show to succeed, it did. You know, my mom's been watching Handsome Siblings, and she keeps telling me to watch it. I might watch that next. It didn't really interest me, because I'm not really it didn't really seem interesting to me. Because trust me, as someone who's been a dub actress, I wouldn't say a dub actress, a voiceover artist for quite some time, you can always tell when an actor is not enthusiastic about the role they're doing. Let me think. I'm sure you guys have heard of the show. I'm sure you guys have heard of the movies, the After series movies. And you can tell that the guy who plays the main guy, like the British guy, you can tell that he is not enthusiastic about his role at all. Like, you can tell that he feels very awkward playing the sort of like toxic love interest, and that he probably doesn't like the character he's playing. And you can kind of tell, because he's always like, oh, I'm doing this now, and I'm going to kick my leg out this way. And you can tell that he's really not very, very into it, you know? I usually try to watch C-dramas alongside my boyfriend with our anime. Right now, we're trying to rewatch the entirety of Bleach before October, when the new season comes out. And we are behind, because we are only on season 5. We have 11 seasons to go. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Handsome Siblings did not hook me. I watched an episode with Mom, and I was like, okay. But she insists that it gets better. She really enjoyed it. And even though mine and my mom's, like, interest, like, the subject matter we like in TV shows is very different, usually I can get into the shows, even if I never intended to in the first place. But I know if Dad really likes something, like if he really, really likes something, then I need to watch it. Because he's so discerning with everything he watches. If he's really into it, then I need to watch it. It's one of the reasons I decided to watch Arcane in the first place. Your family watches CLI, but hate it when I watch drama in different languages. My parents, honestly, if I had done that 5 years ago, they would have. But you know, with life changes, and we've gone through a lot in the last 5 years, like a lot, just as a family. And my parents have really been willing to like broaden their horizons and really, you know, sort of get into things they might not have gotten into before. So, who knows? One day it might just click for them, because that's what it did with my parents. Because my dad is slowly starting to like catch up on certain animes now. Like, he's getting into Hunter x Hunter, he's getting into Haikyuu. He finished the Untamed, he's watching Word of Honor. He still doesn't quite understand Hunter x Hunter, though. He's not quite there yet. But yeah, because we have kind of been through it the last couple of years, my parents have been really open to like trying new things and doing different stuff. Has anyone seen Yangtze Palace? It's on my list to watch, but I don't know if it's worth it. I have not heard of that one. Actually, no. Yes, I have. I lied. I have heard of that one. Anyways, I'm getting lost in conversation, y'all. I'm like, I got 3 more chapters to go. Chapter 10. Don't want to choke. Chapter 10. Netherworld. Zoji Shu stared at the handprint for a while, then turned the corpse front down. How do I say Black Watson? You're still watching Chinese, you can't understand them. Yeah, listen, Curtis, I understand. Trust me. I understand. I wish I could offer some advice and say that it gets, you know, easier to deal with. For my parents, it just kind of clicked. I'm sorry. I wish they wouldn't make fun of you like that. I know it can be very, very, like, irritating. Especially because then it's like, there's kind of like the hint that, like, oh, you're watching this, and that's not, like, it's not black enough, that's not something black people watch. I know it can be very irritating. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry you have to put up with that. Really, I am. Just can't watch things with subs, so he wouldn't think, oh, my mom would either. But I'm getting my brother into them, so that's something. Here's the thing, my brother can speak Chinese. But he doesn't... My brother can speak Mandarin, specifically. But he doesn't watch C-dramas. No one does that too. Yeah. Listen, but that's a good thing about finding spaces on the internet like this. Hopefully like this. Hopefully like our little community. We've got a small one, but I think you guys are awesome. But that's what's important with finding, like, communities of people who are into the same thing you do, because it helps you feel validated, you know? It helps you feel validated. It helps you feel... Like, it helps you feel good. Because I remember when I was a kid... Okay, now I'm absolutely going off on a tangent here. When I was a kid, I felt like I was the only person in the world who wrote, like, fan fiction. And I was maybe in 4th, 5th grade, and 4th and 5th grade were rough. They were rough. And it was not a good time. I talk about it briefly on my TikTok, where, let's put it this way. When I was a kid... it was for some reason the kids assumed that I was allergic to oranges because I never ate the oranges that we got, for lunch. It's not that it's not that I'm allergic to oranges. They were just fucking nasty. I hated those things. But the kids at school thought I was allergic to them. So their response to that was to, squeeze all of the orange juice over my pizza and try to force me to eat it. So, And then no one got in trouble because I wasn't actually allergic, so no one got hurt. Super fun. So school was not easy. And I felt like I was the only person who was like dealing with that. What's your TikTok? It's just Dr. Cannon VO, like all the others. Everywhere I am, I'm Dr. Cannon VO. drcannon.vo. And I felt very alone until when I was in 6th grade, when I found fanfiction.net. And it was like the world had opened up to me overnight, because I knew that other people not only enjoyed the same things I do, but they not only I found people that enjoy the same things I do, but they were people who were like me, you know, black people, Asian people, white people, etc. And because, you know, as a black kid especially, it's very important to see other black people enjoying the same things you do, you know? It's just very important. I can't really describe it, but it is very, very important to you. At least to me. Yeah, what the fuck? The intent, though? Yeah, Lola. It was a lot. It was a lot to deal with at the time. Why am I in top chat again? Damn it. But that actually really helped me in 7th and 8th and 6th and 7th grade to find other people who were into the same shit as I was. And I eventually fell in with the kids that played Yu-Gi-Oh! At the lunch table. And you know what? I'm still friends with 2 of them to this day. So, you know, shit works out eventually. But it's very important to... People always say not to put such a big emphasis on labels, but labels do help you find like-minded people, and when you find like-minded people, you feel validated instead of othered, which leads people to, you know, less constructive ways of thinking, like the alt-right pipeline, etc. I understood people could be so horrible. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Kids suck. I can't. It's one of the reasons I don't want to have them. But yeah, kids are mean, dude. Kids are mean. It's because they don't have that filter. But yeah, some people are just mean for mean's sake. And you know, as you get older, it gets easier to pick them out because you can tell when people are used to getting away with stuff. And that way you know to at least try to stay away from them, you know? At least in my experience. Because, I used to have a lot of interaction. I used to be a saleswoman. I used to be a saleswoman, and I could always tell when people were used to getting their way, because they would start making excuses. Well, they do this for me at US Foods. They do this for me at Restaurant Supply. And it's like, well, we don't do that here. You know how many usually parents you don't get? No, some people, I'm gonna be honest with you, some people with the best parents. I have to get ready. My biggest fear is working on the register. Listen. Okay, take some advice from me. I've worked retail for 15 years. Working the register is actually not that bad. Now, I know that there are a lot of people that can be assholes. I do know that, and you do kind of have to deal with that at some point. But sometimes if you just speak clearly and often greet them with a smile, even if they're grimacing, and honestly, keep conversation to a minimum. Scan the items, just make sure your change is correct, and just try to be as quick as possible. Like, just trust me. Just one of the things about working on the register is just say, okay, your total is blank. Okay, thank you, bye. It's just funnel them in and out real quick. Efficiency is key. And, you know, and because you'll get so many customers, You just practice. You get a whole bunch of practice just being as efficient as possible. Just be efficient. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is not as bad the more you work at it. Like I said, I've worked customer service for 15 years. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Unfortunately. Anyways, good luck with your job interview. I think you'll do great. Yeah, and on the subject, I know that school is rough for everyone, but it's like, sometimes there are a lot of people out there that made school rougher than it needed to be. That's work at Wyndham. It's the money. Like, how much do I give them? Oh, it'll tell you. It'll tell you how much. When you work register, it tells you how much you need. And it'll tell you, and most of the time, it'll tell you what bills you should give them. Most of the time. When I worked at the craft store, not Michael's, when I worked at the craft store, it would tell me what bills I needed. I still didn't forgive it, but I meant, yeah. So yeah, people will always come up with some reasons, like, and they can be some legitimate reasons for why they were being cruel to you, but at the same time, it's also like, okay. So, it's like going to be a lot better. Good. Good for you, Lola. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Some of the friends I made were not the most, law-abiding people. For various reasons. Those, I don't talk about my college years a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. I'm sorry if you guys hear that really loud beeping in the background. They are testing our smoke alarms throughout our entire... What was the reason exactly? I apologize if you hear those really loud beeps. They're testing our smoke alarms in all the apartments, so occasionally just a really ear-piercing shriek from the ceiling will come on. You should probably read before time runs out. I know, Spider Duck, I got super off topic. I'll wrap it up in a minute. Just give me a minute. Yeah, because I have like an hour and a half. Oh, Jesus. I just realized how much time I have left. Thank you for reminding me. You know what, Spider Duck, since you're keeping me in check, got a question for you. Do you mind being a mod? I can't make you one right now, but let me know if that's something that you would mind doing. In the meantime, I am going to keep reading, and we will talk. Chapter 10, Netherworld. Jeez. Zhou Zishu stared at the handprint for a while, then turned the corpse front down, undressing the body's upper half. Another handprint was on his back in the same position. Wen Kushing sighed. He was branded, or the attack went through his body. Zhou Zishu replied nonchalantly. No one would waste their time to play with the dead. The attack went from one side of his body to the other. I can only think of one person in the recent 50 years who was able to do this. It's the Raksha Palms from Sunding, Delighted Morning Ghost. When Cushing continued, Zhou Zishu glanced at him without replying, kneeling down to search Mo Young's body carefully. What he found were some banknotes and silvers. Oh, stealthily left the Zhao's holding late at night while carrying travel expenses. Zhou Zishu touched his own chest. So did he. Brother Wen, this night owl isn't here to pick flowers. Oh, sorry. Brother Wen, this night owl here isn't out here to pick flowers. We've been talking so much that I have to go now. Back to the kitchen. Okay, Alexa. Sorry. Brother Wen, this night owl isn't out here to pick flowers. A sex offender doesn't need this much cash with him. Probably doesn't need extra clothes for bathing either. Wen Kexing kicked a small bag hidden in a bush into the open. The bag was also made of black cloth, and inside was some clothes for changing when one was away from home. The forest earth was damp and soft with a chaotic map of footprints on it, but there didn't seem to be evidence of a fight. Beside the mark of the hand which caused instant death, there weren't any other wounds or scars. I'll think about it? Okay, cool. That's all I needed, Spider Duck. Thank you. The forest earth was damp and soft with a chaotic map of footprints on it, but there didn't seem to be evidence of a fight. Besides the mark of the hand which caused instant death, there weren't any other wounds or scars on Mu Young's body. His famous sword was by his hip, still sheathed. Mu Young's kung fu was definitely above average. At least he would not fight back like a suckling. Zhou Zishu fell into silence, thinking, perhaps the dignified and righteous swordman of Duanjian Manor and the delighted morning ghost of the valley had arranged a date. A bloody one at that, which likely started out as passionate, but the passion turned into anger afterwards. There seemed to be 3 people present before they arrived, and while Mu Young's footprints stopped there, while Mu Young's footprints stopped here, the other two went in different directions, suggesting they may not be on the same side. There was no doubt chasing after Mu Young to this place, then set out to examine the body, just like what Zhou Zishu was doing now. Zhou Zishu squatted on the ground, the old habit of questioning everything rearing its head again, making his insides itch. He felt an urge to follow the footprints, but rationality warned him that it would only lead to troubles. He was no longer the all-knowing, mighty leader of Tianchuang. There was no point in burdening himself with inconveniences. When Kexing watched his companion sit in a terribly indecent fashion and looked like it would take him forever to stand up. After a long while, he couldn't help but ask, "Won't you pursue them?" Zhou Zishu stared at him, still waging an internal war. When Kexing, after some thought, strode after the second one's footprints, saying, "Then I will." Zhou Zishu followed him unconsciously, speaking in surprise. You really want to be involved in something that's not your business?" When Kexing's face was serious. Someone killed Lord Duanjian Manor. Someone killed the Lord of Dianjuan Man... Someone killed Lord of Duanjian Manor, and I'm a charitable person who wants to gather merits, so why not? And I'm bored anyway. So Zishu felt the last sentence was incredibly reasonable, so he nodded, inquiring again, "Then why don't you follow the first person? Their footprints are very light, so they seem to be the strongest among the 3. Hypothetically speaking, if the third one was the last to come here, and was from the Zhao holding, Then the first person is definitely Sun Ding, the delighted morning ghost. Wen Kexing completely deadpanned. You can chase after him if you want. I might be a nosy, charitable person, but I also value my life. Zhou Zhishu was made speechless by the other's honesty. He followed Wen Kexing closely, looking at the ground under the random point and noticing Wen Kexing didn't leave any footprints. Someone who could travel without leaving a trace really just said he was afraid of a ghost. Afraid of death. Zhou Zhishu, who used to manage and investigate all kinds of matters in the palace, decided to follow his desire to see this case through. Since he was already near death, he would do whatever he wanted. There was nothing in this world he should be afraid of anymore. Alright, Curtis. Good luck. Good luck. Everybody say good luck to Curtis. There was nothing in this world of which he should be afraid anymore. The two skilled and fearless men sprinted across the forest like shuttles. They found who they were looking for by the riverbank, Yu Tianjie of Huashan. He was strung up on a tree with silver threads that looked like a spider web, head almost fallen off his shoulder, only barely intact in the gentle blowing wind. A drop of blood fell on the ground, which prompted Wen Kexing to step back to avoid being stained. Then he nudged Yu Tianjie's head, completely severing it from the body. The former part was still strung up. The former part was still hung up by the threads. The latter part dropped to the ground with a thud. Wen Kexing touched the body all over. Mouth pursed. Still warm. He died not long ago. Spider silk. Zhou Zhishu looked up to Yu Tianjie's head, pausing shortly. It's the hanged ghost's spider silk. Tai Hu was truly destined for an exciting time to come. Suddenly, Zhou Zhishu's ears caught on to something. He shouted, "Who's there?" Behind the tree, a shadow appeared and flew away, looking like a giant bat and disappearing almost instantly. Without hesitation, Zhou Zhishu went after it. Wen Kexing still stood there mumbling, "I'm scared of dying. Scared of dying. That's why I can't stay here alone." Then he followed suit. Zhou Zhishu took a pine cone, fingers crooked and aiming at the person Zhou Zhishu took a pine cone, fingers crooked and aiming at the person in black's middle back. But since he always lacked strength after midnight, and coupled with the fact that he had been running for a long time, even though he hit the target, it only made them stumble forward a little and not falling as expected. They didn't even look back, only running faster. Zhou Zhishu had doubts about whether this was the real Zhui Fang, the hanged ghost. Evidently, he would not be able to stand against this man. But if he really was one of Qingzhou Ridge's 10 great ghosts, why would he run after seeing a nobody like him? Zhou Zhishu thought in astonishment. Not a magic mirror either. They got out of the forest in a relatively short time. Behind the forest was a cemetery that spread wide and far, with will-o-wisp flickering all over the place. Seemed like the hanged ghost had reached his territory, as the silhouette became more mystical. Zhou Zhishu was not sure if his mind was playing tricks on him, but he felt like he heard someone's cackling. The laugh was right next to his ears for a sec, then far away the other, making his hair stand on end. Then the hanged ghost disappeared into thin air among the will-o-wisp. Zhou Zhishu abruptly stopped walking. When Kashing stood beside him, the greenish light casted onto his handsome face, giving him a slightly more demonic look. Some kind of animal let out a howl from far away, and a rat crawled out from the underground, staring at the two without fear. It might have devoured the flesh of the dead, since its tiny eyes were pure red. The hanged ghost disappeared from under an old locust tree, and with an owl perched on its branch, the animal tilted its head at the two uninvited guests. So Jishu and Wen Kexing checked around the tree, but found no more clues. Zhou Jishu frowned. We've really met a ghost. Then he heard a creepy laugh, turning to Wen Kexing with goose flesh prickling his skin. His companion pointed at the owl, then turned out the sound was from this ghostly animal. The owl and Zhou Jishu had decently... I was doing so well. The owl and Zhou Jishu had a decently long staring contest before the former spread its wings and flew away without warning. Wen Kexing said, "There's this thing I heard when I was little, that owls are only scary when they laugh, because there will be death whenever they do. Are you afraid?" Zhou Jishu was examining the tombstone under the tree, which didn't have any writings on it. He replied with indifference, "There are already 2 bodies." It was likely that Wen Kexing felt particularly in the mood, so he ignored the answer, continuing with enthusiasm. "I also heard that one day at this small village there was a person carrying a bowl with red water inside. An owl knocked the bowl over, and that year 20 people lost their lives." Zhou Jishu raised his head to look at him. Wen Kexing lowered his voice on purpose. "It's true. Why did that villager carry a bowl of red water?" Zhou Jishu asked in confusion. Wen Kexing choked on his words, turning away to cough. A faint smile appeared on Zhou Jishu's face. All of a sudden, he put his hands on the tombstone, and with just a bit of strength applied, it moved. He tried harder to push it to one side, and with a squashing sound, an entrance was revealed, leading down to a dark space with unknown depth. Wen Kexing hurried to take a closer look, going round and around in front of the cave's entrance, tongue clicking. It's rumored that the point of connection between yin and yang carries a lot of yin energy. So, there must be a dead locust tree next to it. Do you know that it's called the yin tree, or the ghost tree? Zhou Jishu had his arms crossed, face expressionless at the other's ghost stories. Wen Kexing's descriptions were vivid. Under the old locust tree, there will be an unknown tombstone. Under them is the path to the underworld in legends. During the full moon of the 7th month, wandering souls will crawl out from the nether to return to the mortal realm. The path to the yellow spring is incredibly cold, and when you'll see, and at the end, you'll see the gates of hell. Once going past that, you'll no longer see the living. There are the equinox flowers growing along the way, and you'll reach the bridge of helplessness. Hey! Zhou Jishu already jumped down. So she's this guy who always points out the plot holes. So what you're saying is Zhou Jishu is just like my boyfriend. It reminds me of Brendan Lee Mulligan quote, only a cruel, pedantic nerd would question your deeply held convictions on the topic. how creepy he is. Is it has a type that it's a oh my god, spider like it's a little it's true though. It's true though. It's very, very true. Um when Keshing stared dumbfoundedly at the other's silhouette disappearing behind the entrance before jumping himself, he landed steadily, finding out the earth was very firm. He looked up to see Joji Shu's fleeting smile and the other asking, "Is Brother Wen also interested in seeing the path to the underworld?" Wen Kashing nodded, entirely serious, so that next time I tell my tales, I can officially add that they're true stories. Joji Shu shook his head, still smiling. All of a sudden, Wen Kashing silenced them with a gesture, listening attentively with a frown. "Can you hear it? What's that sound?" His voice lowered. Joji Shu tried to distinguish it carefully, his answer indecisive. "Is it water?" In split seconds, Wen Kashing lit up, taking the lead without forgetting to keep his voice down. "So the legends are true indeed." In front of them was a long, narrow path, so cramped that the two men couldn't walk side by side. Only when they had to shrink their shoulders and crouch down was it somewhat manageable. These men are walking into this underground hole, like two teenagers in a horror movie. Joji Shu did not enjoy this posture at all, thinking that maybe this path was not the official, but the one reserved only to women and children. It was unclear how far they'd gone. Dirt fell on both of them, but the end was bright and vast. It led to a large cave, with a small river flowing across with unknown origin and destination. There seemed to be wind inside this cave, but it was also unclear where it came from. The dreary chill came at them from every direction. Even Wen Kashing shut his mouth at that moment, no longer rambling about how the path to the Yellow Spring is incredibly cold. Well, they were bored. True! Rakshasa is a demon. Yeah, that's what I thought. I wanted to make sure. The bridge is... Flowers associated with death. They are also believed to grow in hell, guide souls to their next reincarnation. They are also featured heavily in every Souls game. Every time you meet a boss in a field, apparently that's what they are supposed to be. Apparently. I don't know a lot about Souls lore. Before I read this next chapter, I'm gonna go use the bathroom. Because I have a lot of water. gracious me. At least I have the skills to make it out alive. That's true. Alright. So, I am actually going to have a gummy bear. These things are godsends. And because my boyfriend spoils me, he usually, when he goes to the store, he'll buy candy. Because I love candy. I really love candy. If one of my like dreams is to one day have enough money to like buy a candy store. I would love to have a candy store. Okay. I'm just scanning this. Aw. Everyone, you know one thing I love about this particular WordPress article? Like, this particular WordPress site, is every time I see this person's comments, everyone is so sweet and supportive. It's not like the one on Wattpad where they're like, you suck. I wish this was a better translation. You leave out so many words, and it's like, oh my god, you guys are so rude. For someone who's doing this for free. Anyways, let me continue. Chapter 11. The Cave. Joji Shu stood before the yellow spring in contemplation before turning back to the way he came. The devil made work for idle hands. All the time lazying around, the Zhaos had apparently made him jump down here. Oh, Jesus. I'm going all over the place. Joji Shu stood before the yellow spring in contemplation before turning back to the way he came. The devil made work for idle hands. All the time lazying around, the Zhaos had apparently made him jump down here without a thought. The Huashan sect patriarch was no honorable type, but his son was even worse, having indulged in debauchery at such a young age. Besides, they were all pugilist wanderers. Being attacked was all in a day's work. No matter where Yu Tianjie was severed, his head or his family jewels, it didn't concern Joji Shu in the slightest. It might have been for Wen Kexing's ghostly tales. But he suddenly had a bad feeling. The underground cave carried a sinister atmosphere, Joji Shu calculated, since he only had 2.5 years left. But it was better to help the dying and injured, making the best of his time to do good. Not crawling into a grave with a man who was not always right in the head. But when he was tracing the way back, there was an abrupt thud, like a mechanism being switched. Around the entrance, hundreds of steel knives extended from the wall, blocking the path. Joji Shu was fortunate to have retreated in time, or else he would have been skewered. I got lost again. Gracious! He frowned, staring at those knives, then looked at Wen Kexing. Who did you offend? The surprised question left Wen Kexing's eyes wide open. He looked like he was greatly wounded by the words. Why is it that I had to offend someone for this to happen? Joji Shu offered... Wow, offered? Following a trail. Such a cute date idea, I know, right? Joji Shu scoffed and shook his head. He had no choice but to move forward along the yellow spring. It was possible that he could find another exit somewhere. Are you saying that it's because of me and not you? I'm virtually unknown, and I have just injured the Jianghu recently. I have never committed thievery. The only thing I have been doing is traveling in peace. Who could ever hold a grudge against me? Wen Kexing fell into silence, having enough of his companion's bold-faced lies. After a while, he spoke with a gentle voice. You escorted Zhang Chengling. You have killed 32 in total along the way, including 4 of the extremely dangerous type, like Qing Song. My ass! There are only 11 at most, Zhou Jishu replied. Those in the shrine died under your little maid's hands. So it's still definitely you. Wen Kexing held out his hands. These hands of mine, ever since I left home to join Zhenghu, they have not been stained with any blood, even that of a chicken, much less a human. How can it be possible that I have offended anyone? Zhou Jishu didn't spare him a glance. Prompted? Gracious. That prompted Wen Kexing to walk faster, standing in front of the other with an exaggerated expression of seriousness. It might be hard to believe because of how I look, but I swear I'm a good person. Zhou Jishu nodded. Of course, Mr. Good Person Wen. Now that it's clear I'm just a murderous demon, it's better for you to get out of the way. Wen Kexing seemed to ignore the half-hearted nature of the response, as he still wore a blinding smile. I'll leave you once you admit that you're wearing a disguise. Zhou Jishu smiled back. How generous of you. Please, don't mention it. Zhou Jishu sidestepped him to go forward. Wen Kexing followed 2 steps behind, still smiling. The water of the spring flowed quite rapidly. Zhou Jishu kicked a rock down there, but it was unable to see true depth. It twisted and turned in a complicated pattern, and there also seemed to be fish, but they swam too fast to be visible. Zhou Jishu was not good at swimming. The best he could do was holding his breath for a long time underwater so he would not die instantly upon jumping down. After examining, it was better to stay away from it. The cave seemed to connect any paths in all directions, since the sound of their footsteps and conversations could travel really far. Suddenly, Zhou Jishu stopped walking. Brother Wen, look. Wen Kexing followed his gaze to a pile of bones not too far away. He mumbled, shouldn't the path to the yellow spring be lined with equinox flowers? And the dead should only have their souls left. Why are there bones here? Zhou Jishu flicked at the bones, holding up a half-destroyed skull on one hand and the matchbook on the other, sizing it up carefully. This skull was crushed. The part where it connects to the spine seems to be slashed. No, the wound is uneven. There are teeth marks here. Did an animal bite him? Can an animal bite someone's head off? Wen Kexing asked. Zhou Jishu picked up a thigh bone. Good lord. Zhou Jishu picked up a thigh bone. Teeth marks. More teeth marks. They're quite small. He was hit with a sense of familiarity, as if he had seen them somewhere before. But he had never been a coroner, so the memory slipped his mind at the time. Wen Kexing felt his stomach churning a little, taking the thigh bone from Zhou Jishu with only 2 fingers. This is quite clean work we've got here, even cleaner than me gnawing on chicken bones, he said after examining. Zhou Jishu had to stop having chicken drumsticks from now on. Zhou Jishu decided to stop having chicken drumsticks from now on. Who could have left such bites? Can it be a wild beast? Wen Kexing thought about it for a bit. I've heard that in the underworld there is this giant beast called Di Ting. Do you know if it likes meat or not? It's clear that he still hadn't given up on his ghost stories. Zhou Jishu put on a fake smile. You just have to wait until you're 100 years old and leave this world to go down to hell. What a complicated way to tell someone to shut up and go to hell. Zhou Jishu put on a fake smile. Nope. he didn't get a chance to he didn't get to finish, as there were sounds of water sloshing behind him. In the dark cave, the sounds made their hair stand on end. Zhou Jishu and Wen Kexing turned on that direction and took one step back, facing the small river with their guard raised. Wen Kexing spoke slowly. I also heard that Di Ting doesn't live in the Yellow Spring, and that there aren't that many either. Out of the river crawled many, human-looking creatures, but not really. Their limbs were extra long, and their stature was short. They were completely naked, their flesh pale from being underwater, and they had very long hair. Their body width was unnaturally large, twice or thrice that of a normal human. Their eyes shone a distant light, where they gradually drew closer, like the clickers from Last of Us. Zhou Jishu looked down and bit his wrist, then spoke to Wen Kexing while staring at the faint teeth marks. I remember it now. Those small marks are what? Wen Kexing asked while retreating. Human teeth. Wen Kexing halted after that, coughing, fixing his hair and clothes. He made a salutation at the approaching monsters. My good brothers, we barged into this place completely by accident. We didn't mean at all to offend, so please. Zhou Jishu snorted in on it. Can you not? Sorry, there's just a lot of scuttlebutt going downstairs. Alright, seems like they're going away. I have been subjected to this human drama that's been going on outside my window for like the last couple of weeks. And if you've been on TikTok, yes, it is worse than Womblands Gate. Like every day around the same time, they are just screaming at each other all the time. And it's like, dude, you don't even live here. Like, the guy who is always, like, coming up to his apartment doesn't even live here. He's just, like, coming to there, yelling at the guy. And then, it's like over some money or something. Yeah, it's just... There are these people, a couple that, they detail cars downstairs and out of their own garage. And they have a former business partner who used to work with them, who used to come and, like, do all the armor all on all their stuff. But apparently their business relationship did not end on a positive note. And now the guy comes around for, like, the money he's owed, but they don't have it. And I don't think it's ever going to get violent, because honestly, it's been going on for weeks and it would have by now. But last time, the guy brought his pregnant girlfriend along with him to be like, please, I'm pregnant. Can't you see that can't you see that we need the money? And they basically told him to get lost. Sorry, Spider Duck. Where are we? Zhou Jishu snorted in an uncharming way. The humanoid monsters let out a ghastly howl before coming at Wen Kexing. Wen Kexing yelled indignantly, I haven't finished yet! In contrast, he dodged the attackers like a flying leaf, moving to the side without any effort. The monster's reflexes and movements were fast as they immediately changed direction to chase after him. Claws extracted and glinting, leaving marks on the ground that were 2 inches deep. It'll be fine. This is par for the course living in an apartment, to be honest with you. It's better than living in a dorm room. Jojishu smiled. How is it, Brother Wen? Are you speechless? The monster's attack officially began. Jojishu wouldn't treat those like humans, as they were different. Jojishu wouldn't treat those like humans, as they were definitely far from it. Their durability was unfathomable, and their destructive power was immense. They were also fast, and didn't seem to experience pain. Jojishu's hand was on one chest, attacking it with all his might. A rock would have exploded after that move, but as the monster was knocked back flying against the wall, they only screeched before standing up. Jojishu was eternally unsettled. He couldn't think of what it actually was. He heard a crack beside him. It turned out to be a sneak attacker, being caught and having its neck snapped by Wen Kexing. Wen Kexing smiled. Now I've saved you once. Jojishu also realized, in contrast to their firm body mass, the monster's neck was incredibly fragile, unable to support its head at times. He was surprised when Kexing found out so quickly. Despite that, he replied with politeness. Thank you. Another one barged at them, which Jojishu evaded. His elbow curved to strike at the monster's back, and his fingers made a clawing movement to twist the neck. They made light work of taking down a few more. At least those creatures still had a bit of intellect in them. As they grew fearful after not being able to subdue their preys, their leader howled, and they slowly returned to the water. Randomly, one would have its head above water, staring at their abnormally powerful intruders. Jojishu whispered, with their size, they can clearly bite our heads off. We shouldn't stay here any longer. Let's go. Wen Kexing replied after a bout of contemplative silence. I figured it out. Jojishu presumed he had found out what the monster was. Figured out what? He asked without thinking. Real human skin will redden if you pinch it. Since I can't make out your disguise, can you let me pinch your face a little? Jojishu walked away, not bothering with an answer. He must have been mad for having taken his person so serious. He must have been mad for having taken him so seriously. Wen Kexing followed him close behind. Did I finally get you, and because of that, don't want me to touch your face? I knew it. I knew you used some kind of trick. Are you so beautiful that you're afraid some sleazy deviants will be after you? No worries, Brother Zoe. I'm a completely righteous and honorable individual. I'll never do you any harm, so you can let me see your true visage. Jojishu turned a deaf ear with incredible restraint. But then, Wen Kexing changed his tone. Although, your skills are truly no joke. I can't think of anyone who can be that good. Are you from the fabled Tianchuang? Jojishu stopped walking. In the darkness of the cave, Wen Kexing's smile seemed to carry another meaning to it. But Jojishu only held up his index finger to stop the other. Voice lowered. Can you hear it? They went quiet. In the deeper part of the cave echoed the roars of a beast. It's the one that can bite off a human's head. Wen Kexing had no interest in those beasts. His eyes were fixed on Jojishu alone. The man didn't react to his earlier words at all, only listening to his surroundings intently. His eyes and expressions never wavered. Another roar can be heard, significantly louder now, as if the beast had moved closer. Jojishu saw the underwater monsters all cowering in supposed fear. He tugged at Wen Kexing, and they took a turn into another trail. Jojishu took out a small bottle, sprinkling something along the way. Then they hid in a corner and held their breath. Oh, Oh, my lord. I have a question. And this might be a little, I don't know, self-congratulatory. But if at the end of chapter 12, would you guys mind if I read the first chapter of my book to you? I guess a little bonus. Would you mind? I have missed the call. Sorry, I'm taking a bit of a deep breath before I do this last chapter. It's taking a bigger toll on me than I thought. Ooh, damn. Oh, I felt that one in my back. Good God. Okay. Chapter 12. Illusions. Wen Kexing had no idea what the dust that Zhou Jishu had sprinkled was, but he didn't ask, as if he already knew what the other was capable of. He stood beside Zhou Jishu silently. Seconds later, the heavy breathing of the slow approaching beast could be heard. The creature seemed to have noticed something, maintaining a slow tread. It went by a spot that was about 10 feet away from them. The creature was dog-like, but big as a pony, black all over. It panted through the nose, and in the air was a faint, fishy smell. It slowed down even more, sniffing the air like it was suspicious of something. Zhou Jishu crossed his arms in front of his chest, leaning on the wall, eyes narrowed, watching the scene intently. There was a fleeting hint of a smile on Wen Kexing's face. It was chilling, and only there for a split second. The beast was not far away, but it had yet to notice the two's appearance. It stood still for a while, then moved forward, while being watched by 2 pairs of human eyes. It followed the smell of blood to the corpses of the underwater monsters. Sniffing, it bellowed. Head lowered and mouth chewing happily, it was truly able to it truly was. My God. It truly was able to decapitate the humanoid monsters. When Kexing and Zhou Jishu glanced at each other, Zhou Jishu was quietly terrified. While he wasn't a coroner, he had been through a lot in his life and his knowledge was vast. It was impossible that he couldn't recognize a human head. Is that creature really human? He mused. If it was, how did it come to this? Wen Kexing poked at him, pointing at a small road. Zhou Jishu nodded, leaving carefully. The road widened and narrowed in an unpredictable fashion. After an unknown amount of turns away from their starting point, Wen Kexing asked, "There are other teeth marks on the bones besides those of dead monsters. Do you think they cannibalize?" "Oh. There are other teeth marks on the bones of those dead monsters. Do you think they cannibalize?" When he wasn't talking nonsense, his voice was low, almost like sighing with no strength to it, as if he didn't want to waste energy, completed with a hint of indifference. He paused, then continued. "Are they human?" Zhou Jishu looked at him, voice also low. "Forgive me, I'm just a fool with shallow knowledge." Wen Kexing laughed softly. "You? Shallow knowledge? Ha!" He didn't ask further, and kept walking. After an indefinite time, at another turn when the rapidly flowing yellow spring appeared in front of their eyes, Zhou Jishu called out, "Wait." Wen Kexing looked back at him, the irritating demeanor making a return. "What's wrong, beautiful brother Zhou?" Zhou Zhishu knew all too well that reacting would only goad the other on, so he ignored the gibberish. Those underwater creatures are incredibly strong and fast, and they can move in the water naturally. The beast we saw walks on land and is aware that it has to stay away from the river. If it doesn't hunt near the water, how can it catch the monsters? Wen Kexing stopped walking, examining the ground under them. It was unclear whether he was monologuing or speaking to Zhou Zhishu. How big is this place? Why did it feel like the road was never ending? Zhou Zhishu suddenly spoke after falling into pensiveness. This river flows from east to west. I remember the direction very clearly. Even though we took a few turns, we're still going in the north-south direction. You mean we're running in circles? The sudden enthusiasm took over Wen Kexing. He blinked. I also heard, oh my god, that sound. I also heard about this one story where a person, Zhou Zhishu turned his back to him, making a mark on the wall with his fingertip, then wordlessly left to walk along the mysterious river. Wen Kexing didn't mind his ghost stories being ignored. He rubbed his nose, following the other with a smile. Suddenly, they heard a roar that seemed to shake the whole cave. In the middle of it was a piercing scream that possibly belonged to a child. Zhou Zhishu stopped walking. The child's miserable crying began to get louder. Zhou Zhishu swiftly dashed in that direction. He was 10 feet away in just a blink of an eye. Wen Kexing didn't get to say what he wanted to, his extending arm hanging in midair. He swallowed back the words, shaking his head and following the other. They saw under the claws of the half-dog, half-horse creature was a little girl. The big fangs were right next to the girl's neck, seemingly about to bite down. Zhou Zhishu propelled himself higher in the air and struck down at the monster. Ranged attack was one of his fortes, and the creature was hit right in the head. Its whole body knocked and rolled to one side. He picked up the child, who was only weakly breathing. The beast shook its head with all its might, as if it was disoriented after being hit. After a moment, it realized that Zhou Zhishu had stolen its food and roared, charging toward him. At first, Zhou Zhishu was going to throw her to Wen Kexing by instinct, then paused. His feet started to move around in a strange pattern, his body mysteriously able to retreat several feet away. He put the girl down and kept moving. The beast followed. The stench from its bloody mouth was headache-inducing. Zhou Zhishu jumped to a high place before landing himself on top of the beast in seconds. Wen Kexing stood there, completely disregarding the crying girl with an expressionless face. Zhou Zhishu used the fall of 1,000 weights to keep the beast down, but it was a smart creature, its body toppling over to roll. If someone were to roll with it, they would just be crushed to dust, even if it were made of metal. Zhou Zhishu immediately took advantage of that to jump down with a shout, kicking its belly. The creature's back was full of tough muscles, but the stomach area was really soft, and the kick nearly turned over every organ inside. It roared in pain, but could still stand up thanks to the thick skin's protection. Its mouth widened to bite at Zhou Zhishu. Its back legs were incredibly strong, and despite being in agony, it was still very fast. Zhou Zhishu was about to dodge when his internal strength suddenly hit a wall. The beast's sharp teeth were right in front of him at that moment. He pressed down at his chest with one palm and bent the elbow of the other arm, risking his life facing the attack to hit his elbow at the creature's nose. There was a sound of its nose being broken, its claw tearing through Zhou Zhishu's left shoulder, making him bleed instantly. Zhou Shu realized the nose was the creature's weakness. He ignored his wound, using the other hand to strike at the beast's nose once again, with enough momentum to completely shatter the bones on his forehead, too. It staggered with a few steps and went down with a loud rumble. Zhou Shu frowned, blocking the acupuncture. I was so good. I was doing so good. Zhou Shu frowned, blocking the acupuncture points on his shoulder to stop the bleeding. He was about to use the water from the yellow spring to clean the wound, but then remembered the half-human, half-demon creatures down there and gave up the idea. He heard Wen Kexing let out an "Oh," and then, "Do you have internal injuries?" Zhou Shu turned his head to glance at the other and replied calmly, "Just haven't had enough food tonight." Then he bent down to pick up the young girl, patting her back and speaking to her with a gentle voice. "Where did you come from? Where are you from? How did you get here?" Wen Kexing laughed mockingly at that. "You should probably ask her what kind of demon she is. Why did you save her anyway?" The girl didn't say anything, only burrowing herself deeper into Zhou Shu's embrace. Zhou Shu stopped asking, saying to Wen Kexing, For gathering merits." Wen Kexing stared at his bloody shoulder, deep in thoughts, then suddenly smiled. "I've caught you, Brother Zhou. Forgot to disguise the skin on your shoulder. That area looks really different from your face and neck." Zhou Shu paused for a few seconds before answering curtly. Getting tired of y'all now. Sorry, just blocking more bots. Zhou Shu only paused for a few seconds before answering curtly. "It's because of sunbathing." Excuse me. Wen Kexing was still smiling. "Is it really? The first time I've heard that a pale beauty can still have a haggard shade of skin after sunbathing." Pale beauty. Zhou Shu was given the heebie-jeebies after listening to those words. Still carrying the girl, he was about to say something when his eyes caught something he saw a strange... Still carrying the girl, he was about to say something when his eyes caught something and saw a strange scene. On the body of a dead beast, a plant sprung up. Glowing, then blooming. It's a cherry blossom tree. Wen Kexing followed his gaze, his face quickly paling. Zhou Shu had no time to care about that. He stood stock still, gawking at the still glowing blossom tree. In the air was an unknown fragrance. The body of the dog-like beast was nowhere to be seen, and the flowers kept blooming as though through absorbing magical energy. Soon, it spread out wide. Seemed like he could even touch it if he had reached out. Then, there was a person standing under the tree. He was a young man, with thick brows and big eyes, full lips seemingly always smiling. Blossom petals fell on his shoulders, but he cared for none of it, only extending his hands, lips moving. Zhou Shu could make out what he was speaking. Senior brother. It was Zhu Xiao. At that moment, it was possible that his heart had stopped beating. There was a sudden, sharp pain on his shoulder. Zhou Shu cried out, having lowered his guard. He looked down to see the little girl in his arms, opening her mouth to sink her teeth into his wound. He acted on instinct and used internal strength to throw her off. When he pulled himself together, the cherry blossom tree and the person disappeared. In front of him now was only the dark cave with the beast's corpse. On the ground in the pile of bones they had examined moments ago. The girl he threw off let out an inhuman scream. When he looked clearly, she was not at all a human girl, but actually the underwater monster. The little monster screamed with its mouth open, staring at his bleeding wound hungrily. It was eager to pounce again, but suddenly a hand stuck out and grabbed its neck. The creature didn't even get to struggle before its neck was snapped, and it died immediately. When Kashing's lips curled in amusement, discarding the body without a thought, he spoke as if nothing happened. Those underwater things still dare to go on land even when they're afraid of the beast. It seems like there aren't just two of us down here. All strength seemed to have left Josie Shu. He forced out a laugh. Did we just go in circles back to the original spot then? When Kashing sized him up, "Can you walk? I can carry you. Bridal style is completely alright too, as long as you let me see your real face." Josie Shu smiled drily. "Thank you, but there's no need." He covered the shoulder wound, lifted his spirits, and continued walking along the yellow spring. Then, he asked just like he remembered something. "Back then I saw a tree with flowers, growing from the beast's corpse, with princess feathers, jumping and singing. What did you see?" When Kashing replied from behind him, "I saw an owl. I told you before that owls laughing will only bring bad luck. And I was right, wasn't I? Then I also saw a person carrying a bowl with red water, and the owl knocked it over." Zoji Shu kept his mouth shut. He told a lie. It was fair his companion told a lie in return. He took the lead and didn't look back, so he didn't see Wen Kashing's expression at the moment. The smile on the man's face seemed to freeze there for a long time, and his eyes were blank. It was unclear that he was looking down at the ground or at something very far away. Seeing that Zoji Shu had no patience for his owl story, he swallowed it down and followed the other. It's a lot different from the scene in Word of Honor. Because can you imagine if they did the dog scene with the dog from the Untamed? Like, can you imagine? There's a part of me that still feels so genuinely bad that, Sun Xiao had to do that. Oh my god, because it's that little animatronic, that animatronic dog, oof. The hardest of oofs. Examination 1, Chapter 1. That's what should be it. Yeah, it is. Now I see, like, the biggest differences. Another grape one. Damn. Not that dog. Yeah. Imagine having that scene. This scene with that dog. That would have been a lot. Alright, so I got a little bit of time. Hang on, I'm like adjusting myself. Because, whew. Okay. So. For those of you who know, and for those of you who don't know, even though I do describe myself as a writer, I have not yet written my first novel. Although, I am a writer for people who have followed my quite extensive fanfiction career. When I say that it's quite extensive, I've been writing fan fiction ever since I was 10. I am 31. So that's kind of where I am right now, just as a person. But Exsanguination is kind of like Criminal Minds, but make it Lord of the Rings. And it starts off in a very small town and sort of branches out from there. I do worry that the story is a little bit too anime, but, you know. I think they would have, yeah. I mean, what else can you do in that situation? You feel like an idiot, but... You feel like an idiot, but I'm sure that, you know, you still give it your all. Because that would have been a lot. That would have been a lot. I will actually give the Untamed a break for the Murder Turtle. I would actually, because people always criticize the Murder Turtle and how weird it looks, but I will actually give them a break with the Murder Turtle and be like, they didn't do the dog. As long, like, just, yeah. But anyways, yeah, this is the first chapter of my book, probably the final chapter, the final draft of it, until I get my editor, my parents, to to read it. It should be done by the end of the year, and it should be ready to be published by the end of the year. I will most likely be self-publishing, because you would be surprised at how, like, you have all these... Okay, I'm about to go on a rant here. You have all these publishers that say that they are so welcoming and so open, and that they want to have characters that are, you know, from different ethnicities, different LGBTQ backgrounds, etc. And yet, when you give them a book that has all of those in it, they want to tell you that it's too much. I had an editor look me in the eye and say that it was too much. And tell me that it was too much to have a character that was both transgender and black. Do you hear that? Do you hear that scuttlebutt going on? Those bangs were not me. It's just a lot of scuttlebutt. Tortoise of Slaughter, it's a good band name. Yeah, I could see it. It actually wasn't that bad. No, it wasn't. People give it a lot of shit, but I actually thought it wasn't that bad. I mean, to be honest, when you really look at certain CGI in certain shows, Game of Thrones, the CGI is really not that good. It's really not. Like, I saw some of them dragon scenes, okay? I didn't watch that show like, hardly at all, but I saw some of them dragon scenes. And I can tell you that Emilia Clarke was sitting there like, can I get down? But, yeah, do you guys want me to read this chapter? And then I'll end the stream? It's not very long. It's only 6 pages. Sorry, I know I keep burping. I don't know why. I think I've got a little bit of heartburn. I don't know how I got heartburn from a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but I'm in my 30s, so... I'm just laughing at the dog. Yeah. It's definitely supposed to be a serious scene. But you know that even the studio didn't want to talk about it because they never did a flashback. I'm a Doctor Who fan, I can handle a lot. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Listen, I watched 9th and 10th Doctor. I get it. I mean, hell, I've watched 4th, 5th, and 6th Doctor. I get it. Alright. Thank you, guys. Okay, so, Exsanguination, I've told you, is like Lord of the Rings meets Criminal Minds, and it starts in a town called Marcellus with our character Corleone, who is a provincial governor who is very much just struggling. Okay. Marcellus hasn't seen a murder in 10 years. Corleone swore that as long as he was lord of this province, blood would never darken its streets again. Even as his townspeople gather around him with prayers of relief and thanks, the grip of personal failure bends his mouth into a sharp frown. Shame twists his guts as viscera zigzags through the cobblestones of Marcellus Port. Marcellus is one of 10 provinces that supported the king's decision to remain neutral in the war with Shihai. He told the provincial council that he wanted to prevent bloodshed. Perhaps he just can't handle more than one conflict at a time. The body is covered by a single white sheet. He wouldn't be surprised if someone living nearby tore a sheet off their bed. Even with the clouds looming overhead, there's enough light to catch the shine of wet gore, not just on the ground, but splattered on nearby windows. As he approaches, many of his guardsmen bow, even though he's never really cared for the motion. Crouching down, Corleone bends his head in prayer for the woman's departed soul. Several onlookers follow in suit, having forgotten to do so amid the pandemonium. A moment of steely silence later, Corleone gently lifts the shroud to see the still, wide-eyed face of former Major Victoria Belmont staring back. No one will miss her. She was a miserable curse of a woman, the kind that would give you 7 years bad luck if she showed up at your door. Corleone still has heaps of petitions from her filed away in his desk, anything from requests to ban children from playing with toys within 50 feet of her house, or banning guards from greeting people when they pass them in the street. Apparently, it's not a soldier's job to be friendly. During her service, her training regiments were legendary, but the ensuing ridicule was mythical. Her marriage after the Destal conflict shocked everyone, but no one was surprised when the man left Marcellus and all of his money just to get away from her 5 years later. Still, this never stopped Corleone, his wife, and all her neighbors from reaching out. Nevertheless, they were always rejected. Still, no one deserves to be slaughtered in the street like this. Eyewitness accounts state that the former major was the aggressor. She approached her attacker, but that's not out of the ordinary. She was quite clear on where she stood on immigrants and refugees. Captain Bailey says, Major Victoria's petition for outsiders to be immediately identifiable is still sitting in Corleone's wastebasket. Since she retired from service, she insisted that she and her neighbors were being watched. He gently closes her eyes and further examines her fatal injuries. There was a brief altercation. Only one of the witnesses said that Major Belmont pulled a knife, but I couldn't get anyone to corroborate the story. We did find the weapon, but it wasn't on her person, so I can only assume... Let me see it. Corleone says. Captain Bailey doesn't mind being interrupted. One of his soldiers hands them the Oh, I just realized. I accidentally put him instead of them. My bad. Misgendered my own character, oh my god. One of the soldiers hands them the locked case. They open it. Wow, I did it twice! Oh my god! They open it, and let Corleone examine the large hunting knife without picking it up. Sorry, I'm editing at the same time. Whoop! The large hunting knife without picking it up. No, it's the Major's, Corleone replies. He thanks Bailey, and they put the other case away. I could have sworn I always intended for Bailey to be non-binary, but I guess... maybe this is the wrong draft. He thanks Bailey and puts the case away. These wounds weren't made with a knife. They're too big, and if I didn't know any better, I'd say she was attacked by a wild animal or something. Even with the best skills, a knife can't make 3 perfectly spaced wounds. How many times was she hit? Only once, apparently, so she struck decisively, Captain Bailey replies. Do you think it was magic? No. A spell that brutal would take time to cast, or that knife would at least have some pretty intricate runes in it. Corleone motions to his own sword. The Marcellus family crest is engraved up and down its scabbard. Where's the killer now? She's being held in prison, but I don't think it could hold her if she tried to escape. Captain Bailey shifts uncomfortably. To be honest, I'm sure her surrendering is the only reason we captured her at all. Has she requested any legal or religious counsel? Corleone asks. No. She only demanded that she speak with whoever is in charge of this town, Captain Bailey replies. She clearly has something to say, so I'm fairly confident she wouldn't escape even if she could. She's clearly delusional if she thinks I'll let a murderer call the shots here. Corleone mutters, and Captain Bailey fights the urge to grin at their lord's determination. Regardless, you did well to bring her in. He pats his best guard on the shoulder. Thank you. Tell Cecil to meet me at the prison. Major Belmont didn't have any family, so no one knows where her husband is. So we'll ask Juan Chen to take care of the funeral arrangements. Lucille's already at the church, so I'll talk to him. They load the body into the church's funeral cart, and Corleone rides with the nun to the chapel. As they ride through town, the threat of rain casts an eerie shadow over houses and streets. There's a pall in the air. There are no children outside or the dull roar of neighborly chatter. People linger in the windows, gazing anxiously outside. Some throw flowers at the cart, paying their respects to the major. Others pray silently. But most just wait, dreading the next act of violence. The world might see Nyanda's war with Destal as just a small price of the ongoing Imperial War, but that doesn't change the damage it's done to its people. He can see the fear in their eyes, wondering when the other shoe will drop, when shoulders will storm their shores, when the rivers will run red again. When will the pyres start burning? Who will we lose next? He won't let the war come back to Nyanda, or his province of Marcellus. He can't. Not again. Lord Marcellus? The nun has been speaking to him all this time. The cart is stopped in front of the major's house. News travels fast in a small town like this. Everyone has already dropped off their morning flowers. He wouldn't be surprised if the hills outside of town were picked bald. I'm sorry, Sister Uriah, Corleone says. I was thinking. She gives him a small, sympathetic smile. I have to run, but we'll catch up on the rest of the story later. Have a good weekend. Okay, see you, Jennifer. Be safe. It's supposed to, if you live stateside, it's supposed to get very, very cold, so bundle up. I said, did you want to grab some of her effects? She says. Corleone gets a whiff of the pungent wildflowers and shakes his head. It's too soon. Best let everyone come and pay their respects. He'll be back tonight. When they reach the chapel, Lucille and Lily are waiting outside. Seeing them usually makes everything okay, but not even his wife and daughter can stop the dread gnawing under his skin. He hugs Lucille, careful of her swollen belly. She's fast approaching the later months of her pregnancy. What kind of father can he be if he can't protect his child? Please take Major Belmont inside, Lucille says to Sister Uriah. Corleone finally realizes their cultivator isn't with her. Where's Juan Chen? He asks. I told him to stay inside. I can tell he wasn't feeling well, but you know how he is. Some days I'm scared a stiff wind could blow that man over, Lucille says with a hand on her cheek. Lucille says he's fragile. Lily chimes in unprovoked. Her mother coughs, a little embarrassed. Well, Lily, some people are weaker than others. Corleone ruffles her short hair and the child grins widely. That's why it's our job to guard them and keep them safe. Lucille's brow furrows, seeing a familiar dark shadow cross her husband's face. She touches his cheek gently, but he can't quite meet her eyes. Hey, look at me. Her tone matches the color of her warm honey eyes, and he struggles to meet her gaze. No one blames you. He knows. That doesn't make it any less of a failure. Lucille opens her mouth to say more, but the distant and impatient call of Sister Uriah interrupts. Sorry, I'm coming. She turns back to Corleone. We'll talk later, all right? She gives him a kiss, then goes to carry out her duties as Lady of Marcellus. She leaves Lily with Corleone. Corleone? Lily isn't his child by blood. She's not human, so concepts like calling mother and father, so concepts like calling her mother and father anything but their name is a little confusing for her. Are you sad? She's not very expressive in the best of times, but they raised her to be sensitive to those around her. It's not easy work. Saints, especially children like her, tend to be selfish and volatile. Yeah, I'm sad, Corleone says with a weary sigh. But I thought you didn't like Major Victoria, Lily replies, tilting her head to the side. Corleone isn't in the mood for this, but he won't blow her off. Lily might be only his child in name. She's not even human. But she deserves the same love and compassion that any child is entitled to. I don't, no, Corleone says, crouching down to her level. But even if I don't, she was still a part of this town. Even if she was mean, she didn't deserve to die like that. No one does. Lily nods silently for a moment. Who killed her? She asks. I don't know her name yet, but Cecil and I are going to figure out who she is and why she did it. She'll be brought to justice. Are you going to avenge her? No, I mean, she's going to be tried, and Cecil will decide what to do with her. Corleone chokes. Lily frowns, dissatisfied with his answer. Well, she should be. It was quite the cop-out. What's wrong, sweetie? We hurt a lot of people when we were fighting. Some of them died. Her innocent observations pain Corleone more than his old stab wound. They have to talk about this sooner or later, but it's been a decade. However, saints like Lily are old, sometimes even ageless creatures. They're as constant as the ground beneath their feet. Some are even born from it. Others come from rivers and seas. Some saints even come from volcanoes or are born from natural disasters like hurricanes. A handful of them have simply always been. Saints are born from the blood of the gods. That blood runs through the planet. So a decade to him might seem like a week to her. Lily, back then we were defending ourselves and defending our home. They were ready to fight to the death, and we had to be prepared to do the same or we'd lose. Corleone says as gently as he can. Major Belmont's killer attacked her for no reason. He wonders if this counts as lying. The Major did have a knife on her after all. The captain told me people were Excuse me. The captain told me people were sick. In their minds. Too sick to get better. Lily adds. Corleone fights the urge to groan. Yes, some of them had shock. Do you remember what that is? Yeah. Lily nods eagerly. It's when the say in your body goes bad. She pauses for a moment. That doesn't happen to saints, though. Right. Shock is only something humans can have. He explained this before, but she struggles with the concept. She places a hand on her chest, trying to think of how her body would feel without any say, but she's made of it. Humans like me are made of flesh and bone. Saints like you are made of say. Humans don't need say to exist, but too much or too little of it can hurt us. And the soldiers in Destel had so little of it, it hurts their brains because the machines took it away. Lily supplies, repeating the lesson she's had to learn over and over. Right. But we don't have to worry about that here because there's lots of say and it's really, really gentle. Lily says proudly, but then she pauses. So is the killer from somewhere else? Is she sick? Yes, she is. And she very well could be. Shock isn't something you can just cure with more say, so Cecil and I will have to talk to her ourselves. It doesn't really matter that she's sick. It doesn't really matter what she's sick with. He'll see to it that Cecil sentences her to death. So, Will we be put on trial too? Lily asks. By the Advent, he is not equipped for this line of questioning, and his hesitation only makes Lily demand more answers. Well, we killed people too. Sick people. That's bad. Corleone's head spins. He doesn't want to lie to her, but he doesn't want to hurt her either. Yonda's war with the neighboring Destal led to massive loss of life. The only traces of his father's generation are memories. Destal tried to abandon spells and magic that made their world and instead used machines to do their work. It made them powerful, yes, but Sei is not an infinite source. Once they ran out, they invaded Nyanda. They fired on hospitals, schools, captured prisoners of war who were never the same, and laboratories. Holy Advent, the experiments were the worst part. It is bad. He laughs bitterly at himself. I'm sorry, Lily, you've asked me a really hard question. She doesn't care. Everything we went through after the war, everything that happened with King Rain and our home, that's our justice. We suffered so much, and so did Huan Chen. That's why he's so frail. A father should be honest with his daughter. I don't know. He takes her by the shoulders and gives her a smile. These moments are the hardest, but she's come a long way from the wild, destructive force she used to be. But I do know that you are a good person, and that I am a good person. So is Lucille and your Uncle Cecil. This town is full of good, civilized people, even though they may not always be nice. Good people do good things, and I see more good in this town than bad. Lily's eyes glaze over, and it lets her think. She gazes down at the road as they have the view of the entire town from here. Who knows? She might be able to see all the way down the hill. Saints are incredible creatures. Some countries even worship them like guardian deities. Lily is their little guardian, and she will watch over this town for decades, maybe even centuries to come. I see more good too, she says. She hugs him very tightly. I see lots of good things. Corleone finds himself bracing Lily a little too long. Blood or not, it's his duty, his purpose, to protect this family and his town. They will live the lives they deserve. Lily will never have to fight again. You two okay? Lucille's voice startled them more than they'd like to admit. They've been talking for longer than he thought. Lucille is slower going these days. While she's not so pregnant that she struggles to do things on her own, she knows that the time is fast approaching. She might complain that her recent hair loss during pregnancy, but Corleone doesn't mind the head wraps, especially with the way her rich brown skin glows even in this dim light. He prefers it when his hair is out of her face. Yeah, I was just helping Lily understand what's happened, Corleone replies, standing to his feet. A simple explanation, though he feels like he just cheated death. Sister Uriah meets him at the road in the cart once again. She doesn't want the lord and lady walking all the way home after such a heinous crime. Actually, sister, could you take me to the prison? I'm meeting Cecil there for the interrogation. Isn't that dangerous? Lucille asks as the cart pulls off. You're giving her exactly what she wants. I know, but we don't have much of a choice. If she's from somewhere like Shihai or from Tepek, this might be our only chance to get any information from her. There has to be a reason for all of this. That last part is more for his own sake than Lucille's. There's a part of him that truly believes she acted in cold blood. I want to search the Major's house when we get the chance, but not until Huan Chen feels better. He'll need to bless it. Besides, she might have had a will or something. I was only able to take care of the preliminary examination, but there's nothing unusual about the body so far, Lucille notes. Although... She trails off as they pass by the former Major's home once again. The amount of flowers has doubled, nearly filling the nearby streets with their overwhelming fragrances. A small crowd is gathered at the house to pray. I wonder if she would have been nicer, knowing everyone would miss her so much. Oh, that took me a little longer than I thought. I was hoping to read through that very fast. I thought it's only 6 pages. It'll be fine. That took forever. I feel it's a little boring. I feel like maybe I need to do a little less explaining. But hopefully, in the next 2 or 3 months, I should be able to give this over to the editor named Dad. My father is actually a writer himself. He wrote something called The Sky Demons of Obenin. If I had a link to it, I would give it to you, but I don't, because he took it off of Amazon a couple of weeks ago, because he wanted to change some things. I apologize if you hear that sound. That's the sound of a vacuum from downstairs. Okay, so a couple of housekeeping things before I go. Also, tell me what you guys think, if you thought it was okay. I don't get to read my own stuff like that very often. It's kind of nice. But a couple of housekeeping things before I go. Number 1, episodes 33 and 34 will be on there. Sorry, will be uploaded. That's the word I'm looking for. Will be uploaded on Wednesday. However, I am watching episodes 35, 36, and 37 all at once. And that will be a very long video. That will be premiering on Friday. That will be premiering the next Friday. So next week, we'll have the single Wednesday video. And then the week after that, we will have a single Friday video. And I will most likely be doing a read aloud stream on Wednesday. Does that make sense? So I can't promise that I will be doing anything. I can't promise that I will be, because one of the reasons I wanted to do a lengthy Friday video is because I need to be somewhere very early on the 26th, so I wouldn't be able to do a read aloud stream on Friday. I will probably be doing a read aloud stream that Wednesday, and then on the 16th, it'll be episodes 33 and 34, and then I'll probably do another read aloud stream on the 18th if I have the schedule. I think I do. I should. And then the 23rd, there will be no video. There will likely be a read aloud stream. No promises on that one. I do have somewhere to be on that Wednesday, and if traffic is bad, I will not be able to do a stream. And then on the 25th will be an extra long 3-episode video. I want to know what happens next. What does that tell you? Oh, well, lots of stuff happens. Lots of stuff happens, and I wanted to be very careful with the use of cultivator, because I wanted to use another word other than priest, and I wanted to do, I wanted to pull concepts of religion that didn't revolve around Christianity. Because everyone does that, because it's a very common religion in the United States. So I wanted to pull the religious influence in the story from other places. So I wanted to be very careful calling Huan Chen a cultivator. Also, I just realized that I had the wrong pronouns for Bailey pretty much the entire chapter, which makes me very upset. Captain Bailey, Captain Bailey, their pronouns are captain and right away. Unfortunately, they're not a very major character, though I have been considering writing a side story with them. Because, they do pop up every now and again, and they're not, like, a major character, but, they do have a quality that a lot of the side characters from the story are missing, and that is, they live. They survive. So, you know. Oh, you're still here. Yeah, I am actually about to leave. I just finished reading the first chapter of, my book, and I need to go back and rearrange the pronouns for one of my characters. But regardless, yeah. So remember, the 16th is episode 34, is episode 33 and 34, and then the 25th will be episode 34, 35, sorry, will be episode 35, 36, and 37. All in one video, and that video is going to be long. Probably like, I would say 1.5 longer than, I got a job! Congratulations, Curtis! I'm so proud of you! I'm proud of you. Congratulations. I think you'll do great. I know being a cashier makes you a little bit nervous, but I totally think you will do great. It is not published yet, Curtis. I'm still working on it. But it will be done probably by the end of the year. Oh, also, after the 16th, my Patreon will be active. I'll be working on it pretty much all weekend, and I will start, posting up my Patreon stuff. I'll start posting my Patreon stuff up on my Read Aloud streams and my videos. So it probably won't be the Wednesday video, but it will probably be on the 25th. So, yeah. But other than that, that's everything. So, thank you guys for watching. I need to, 1, clean the kitchen before my boyfriend comes over, because I still need to cook them steaks. And 2, it's getting late. And I need to get to cooking before it gets too cold, and I am not able to move. Because I stiffen up real bad during the winter, and it's supposed to be spring. It's supposed to be warm. It won't be this weekend. But luckily after that, it'll be much warmer. So, thank you guys for watching. Really, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are great. I love you guys. Once again, congratulations, Curtis. And I will see you guys